Hey, well, everybody, we're here today with Lewis Weaver. Lewis Weaver's been a friend of mine for a long time.
Right.
We worked at Roy City Fire together, and we ran some calls together and started some businesses, not together, but kind of parallel to each other. And we've both been our different ways. Lewis has had some health issues I'd like him to cover and why he's had to make some hard decisions in his life. So we are going to spend the next couple hours probably here talking to each other, hopefully share some business insights on how we start something from nothing, take fire wages that where we can't even rub two nickels together and launch something that makes it so we can afford our bills and hopefully have some employees that afford theirs. So we appreciate you tuning in today to 90 Proof Wisdom Podcast and Lewis Weaver and myself, Jeremy Barker. Don't forget to subscribe today, and here we go.
If you haven't found it yet, keep looking and don't settle.
Yeah, this is Houston. We're copying. Everything is go here.
We shall fight on the beaches and in the streets. We shall never surrender.
I'm in it just to rewrite history, cause I'm in the mood to label us the leaders of the new school. This ain't for the radio, can't find this on YouTube. This the type of killing that these critics ain't used to.
You're a group of happy rebels. You've said no to the rules of the game and the regulations of the day. You've said no to the conventional wisdom. You're all originals.
In this day and age, I got time for innovation, time to be creative, time to make the way. So my time on critics hating, flattered by your
All right, everybody. Thank you again for tuning in to 90 Proof Wisdom with myself, Jeremy Barker, and Lewis Weaver. Lewis Weaver's been a firefighter here in Ogden City and Southwest. I don't know which one. Every department in the world. Right? So, nonetheless, Lewis, I want to go through and kind of just share your story. You started you had a first business, then you went into fire. Not business, but you were doing another job first. Mm-hmm. We went into fire like all of us after the economic downturn. Right. You did fire, super successful in fire. You were able to go to some different departments and move your way up the ladder. And then along the way, you had some health issues that really kind of threw a wrench in the goal of retiring in the fire world without taking unnecessary risk. And then you had to figure out what's the next step in your career and how do you afford whatever's next, right?
Yes.
So if you don't mind starting that story
Sure.
and just kind of going through those steps, I'd love to hear it.
And if you don't mind, we can start at my birth, if that's okay, because I love to talk about myself.
Sure.
So if we got 6 hours, let's do this,
Can we do an 8? We'll do an 8-hour show on this one then, Ken.
No, it just, my story does start with my birth because I'm not supposed to be here. And when I was born, I was luckily 9 pounds, 10 ounces. I was a big kid.
A little fat kid.
Yeah. And I was the youngest of 8 children. And my dad is trying to raise 8 kids, and he's off doing stuff. And I'm born, and my mom, who's an angel, she's a saint, she comes home, she's got all these kids to take care of, she's got this newborn. Well, she notices that my lips are turning blue, and I have big lips. So
Good, bad, or indifferent.
Yeah.
I mean, hey.
It's like a beacon. You're like, what's going on here? These lips are turning blue. So she's worried about it. She realizes I'm not breathing very well. Well, my dad's not home. She's got all these little kids. What's she's going to do? And, but she's freaking out. She decides to drive me to the hospital, and she's got her hand over my mouth to make sure I'm still breathing. So we get there. They figure out I'm in heart failure, and they have to life flight me to LDS hospital. So they get there. They find out I have a bunch of problems with my heart. I've got a bicuspid aortic valve. I've got a hole in my heart. I've got enlarged ventricles. They need to do a coarctation of my aorta. But this is back in 1982. And they said he's probably not going to make it. I actually have the paperwork still, less than a 5% chance. So my parents had to really absorb that and decide what they're going to do. Because my dad came down and they found out that what they're going to do is they're going to go up on the hill. They're going to say a prayer, and they're going to say goodbye to me and put me in God's hands. So that's what they did. They said goodbye. So I have surgery. I make it. But it's touch and go. So my mom's sleeping in the oxygen tent with me. She's concerned about me. It worked out for the benefit. There's more pictures of me than any other kid. You know what I mean? Like,
As there should be.
I think I'm the most loved. It's like I'm the youngest. I'm the baby.
Yeah.
I almost died. All this stuff. Well, for years after that, they didn't know how long I would live. So it was just always like, oh, he could probably 6 more months.
So you were like anything you wanted.
Yeah. No. Well, no, for really poor people, sure. You know what I mean? Yeah. And I was treated great by my family. I really was. I was treated great. And as I grew up, my brothers and sisters, they were really supportive. They were empowering to me. They were like, you're the man and you're tough and this and that. And they supported me. And where I ran into it was in school. No one wanted to let me run, let me play, let me do anything because they were afraid. Right. They were like, oh, watch his lips. Look for those big old lips. If they're blue, we got to put him into the ER, man. Well, and everyone's paranoid. So I'm being told, can't play, can't do this, can't do that. And at some point I'm like, at a really young age, I'm like, but you're going to die. And I'm going to die. And you're going to die. What's the point of even being here? Like, I want to enjoy it. If it's to be careful, I'm not going to do it. So I guess at a really young age, I told my parents, I'm going to play so hard it kills me. How about that? Now imagine as a dad,
right?
Your kid with problems says, not only am I going to run, I'm going to run until it kills me.
Well, that's awesome, though.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'd like to hear it.
Right.
But I like the personality I'm hearing.
Yeah, I'm like, you know what? I'm going for things. I'm just going after it, and if I fell, I fell. It's just, I don't care. I'm just going after stuff. So that, I just wanted to share that because I think the Pareto rule, 80% of my success is just mindset. And having that mindset of I'm going for it, and I'll figure it out along the way, because perfect makes you poor, but good enough makes you rich, right? Now, that doesn't mean you can not perfect your skills. Obviously, I want everyone to do that. But everyone waits to be perfect before they jump in and do something. Just go after it. So as I'm going along in life, I have trials, I have whatever. I try and play sports. I thought it was very normal just to be very dizzy when you run. I was just always dizzy.
I am too.
Yeah, well, there you go.
But
perfect.
Makes me, I did it this morning.
Yeah,
I'm still dizzy.
So I meet my wife now. Oh, I'm 20 years old, 21 years old. I go fishing. And I fall in a river and I get really cold and I get pneumonia and I go home and I get really sick and I'm sick for days, sick for a couple weeks. And now I remember I got so sick I tried to crawl to the bathroom and my dad was like, that's it. I'm done with this. So my brothers picked me up with my dad and they take me to the hospital. I found out I have heart failure. Again. And you think I'd be smart enough to know like how the heart functions and everything else, and that heart failure is not permanent, Matt, if it's based on like a problem with your heart that they can fix. But when I hear heart failure, I'm like,
game over.
Yeah, I'm going to die. And here's this sweet girlfriend who's awesome. She doesn't need to be hooked to this. So I think at the moment, I'm going to break up with her.
Right.
Because that's the natural thing to do, right? Like I'm going to be the sacrificial lamb. I'm just going to let you go.
Go find someone that's going to live longer than me.
Yeah, I'm already broken. Now I've got $300,000 worth of medical debt, no insurance. I mean, you
this might want a great start of a relationship.
You might want to move on,
right?
You know. So I try and break up with her at Ogden Regional, and she had none of that. She was pretty pissed off that I would even think about that. You know, rightfully so. So after I get out of the hospital, I've got all this debt. My family's broke. I'm trying to figure out what I want to do. I've never paid a late payment in my life. I was a responsible kid.
And how old were you?
I was 21.
21. That's a great way to start 21.
Great way, right? $300,000 in debt. And so I talked to an attorney. He says, you need to file bankruptcy, Chapter 7. And my dad had never filed bankruptcy, and he took 18 years to pay off my medical bills from a kid. So here now I'm 21. He finally paid them off, and another $300,000. And they're mine. They're my bills. And I'm like, well, I guess and that attorney says, here, you can just have crappy credit for the next 30 years. Mm-hmm. Or you can just wipe this off. And I'm like, I'm going to see if they'll let me do a payment plan of $500 a month. Back then, that was a lot. $500 a month was basically a mortgage, you know? And I'm like, I will pay you $500 a month. They said no. And I think they did it out of grace. Like, dude, you're 21 years old, just file bankruptcy, you know? So I ended up filing bankruptcy, but I didn't do it on any of the debt I had. I had a car that was broke down, and I had some other stuff, and you
just did it on the medical alone.
Yep.
And whatever they did.
Yeah. Yep.
Reaffirmed.
I redid all my debt, and that helped me a lot, because with the creditors, they saw that even though I filed bankruptcy, none of their debts were wiped out. Mm-hmm. So that made a big difference when trying to rebuild my credit, and I bought my wife's ring and through using that credit. So I guess I tell that story because if a 21-year-old kid who's bankrupt can do it, who wasn't supposed to live, like, what's your excuse? Not to be rude, not saying I'm better than you. What I'm saying is, like, what is your excuse? And everyone's excuse is right here.
Right.
It's the self-limiting thoughts.
I think you're dead on. We are our biggest hurdles, right?
Yeah.
And there, I don't know how you teach somebody to say, you can do it. How do you teach that? It's just they don't even have belief in themselves, which is really sad. Because you look at people that aren't taking those chances that we've worked with. They're like, I want to do this. And I'm like, if anybody can do it, it's you.
Yeah.
It is you.
Yeah.
I have seen how you work.
Yep.
And they're like, I don't dare take the chance. I like the security of the fire or the ambulance or this job. I'm like, holy dude, just like, I'm sad that you don't believe in yourself because I believe in you.
Yes.
And
I agree. I believe in other people more than myself sometimes. And I try and relay that to them. That's why I try and be a guy who, I'm just a regular guy. I'm just your average guy who's done well. And I try and let people know you can emulate that. You can do that. Because you know what? Becoming a millionaire is choice. That's all it is.
Every morning.
It's just a choice.
Yeah.
People think you have to inherit it. People think you have to be super smart. Guess what? I'm not. I'm totally average. I'm average in every way. Mm-hmm. But if you choose that I'm going to be a millionaire, maybe you buy a book about it. Maybe you start learning about it.
And I would say
that's
not
what
maybe.
I did.
I would say
you do it. Yeah.
You do it.
You buy a book, you start reading about it, you get a mentor, you power of proximity. You get around people who lift you up. I want to be the poorest person in the room who's the dumbest person in the room. That's great. If I can do that, that's fantastic. But pick people you want to be around that did it the right way. That just didn't,
or they did it the wrong way and have lessons to
exactly.
and lessons to teach.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, it's just, to me, it's pretty simple. Once you make that decision of I'm gonna, I want to become a firefighter.
Yeah, so now we're on that step. You're 21.
Yeah,
and then you went to what?
So I decided the best thing to do when I'm bankrupt is become self-employed.
Brilliant.
Yeah, brilliant.
Yeah, my credit's already.
Yeah, why not?
I might as well just.
I'm already screwed. Let's do this. And I've just been an entrepreneur my whole life. I don't like waking up and doing the same thing every day. I like waking up and being challenged. I like choosing my direction in life. I've just been an entrepreneur. Right. Simple. But the problem is I didn't know how to be an entrepreneur. So
there's no book.
Yeah,
there's no
there's
lesson.
books, but you got to go out and do it. Right.
But the books are so.
It's more about mindset
random.
and different things. And,
it is.
And everyone contradicts each other. So
you know what I
have to
find
make a
hard
decision.
is there's no ABCD of what to do next. Like, okay, I want to start a business. How do I do it?
You know why? Because there's 10,000 different ways to do it.
There's 10 different, but there is some core things you have to do.
Right.
Like a business license or a contractor's license or a license in paramedicine or EMS or fire. What are those that you have, the certificates, right? So that's why if you guys are having a goal in a direction that you want, I promise you your mentors are going to be more than willing to teach. They crave it. They want to have an opportunity to be able to offload some of that obligation that they feel a debt to society in what they've been successful with. And every single person that I've asked to either be on my board of advisors, board of directors, or just to mentor me, or even a cup of coffee, saying, hey man, can I pick your brain? It doesn't matter who it's been. I haven't got to know.
Nope.
They don't. Here's the thing. What is the most powerful? I mean, there's a lot of powerful words, but help. You can be wanting to punch somebody, and then you're chasing them down around the corner, and they lay down, and you're ready to kill them because they just freaking cut you off and flipped you off and called your wife a name or whatever. And they look at you and like, I need help.
You'll stop.
You'll stop immediately. You won't hit that person like, what can I help you with? Oh my gosh, right? So you can take it from your worst enemy that asked for help to some random person that's just trying to be successful. And when somebody says, hey, help me, and you know it's coming from someone that looks up to you, can you imagine how big of a head you're going to look if you say no to someone that wants to emulate you? They're going to immediately, you're like, oh, this guy sees something in me that I don't see in me. And he wants to ask some advice on how to be me, which I'm going to tell him, don't be me.
Right.
Right. But at the same time, I'll give you some key pointers on the stuff I suck at and a couple of the lucky choices I've made or good choices I've made. So I just think
you get them started.
You get them started. And then you open the lines up and say, please call me anytime that you want. And then here's where people fail. They don't call.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying don't call me, but I didn't call. Like, hey, Lewis, you open this freaking opportunity up to ask questions with somebody that you look up to. Human nature is that we're already good at it. Oh, I got my questions answered. Well, I promise you, if you're trying to get to where you're trying to get to, there's going to be new hurdles every single day. And you may have the answers for today's problems, but you better have 1,000 more problems. And I said, you better have 1,000 more problems. And when you say you're at the pinnacle of something, you better find something that you're at the bottom of, because otherwise complacency, you're just going to fall off the pinnacle. You need to work every single day.
I'm telling you, the destination is not the goal. It's the journey.
It's
100% the
and
journey.
it doesn't make sense to people.
It
like, I want to
doesn't.
be a millionaire.
Oh, I want to be a millionaire. Now I'm a millionaire. I go,
But that's so empty.
yeah, it's nothing. And you know what it was? The achievement along the way. It was seeing people's eyes light up when they buy their new home. It was taking my family on vacation. It was the memories. It was the moments along the way. And I always ask people this question: would you rather have $1 million at 30 or 100 million at 90? Well, I want $1 million at 30, right? Because time's more powerful than money. Time is the only thing we're losing all the time. So if you're going to sacrifice all of your time for something, your family, your time, and all that, maybe that's not worth it. So what I'm saying is, 10 years from now, no matter how rich you are, you'd probably give all that up to be today. Back
Just
to today.
to jump into that and into context for $1 million at 30, just so people are aware. Right now, back 10 years ago, 5 million was a good retirement number. I just don't think it will be at 30. I think you need to be more in the 8 or 9 million. Which, if you're going to just pull the plug and not work, and people may argue or disagree, but if you take into account inflation and everything else that's coming along the way from now till we die or 80, and then we're in a care center or whatever else happens, I think we need to set our goals higher than even $1 million. And I know that's overwhelming for people at a $50,000 a year job or $30,000 a year job.
Sure.
But I'm just trying to say, look, 30 years old at $1 million, we still need to keep working. So you've learned how to make one, and once you know how to do one, it's pretty easy to get to figure out how to do 10 if you keep your shoulder going.
Well, you taught me this. You said to become a millionaire, it's like getting the recipe of making a cookie. So much flour, so much sugar, so much milk, all that. But you have the recipe. You know how to make the cookie. So if someone steals it, or you lose it, or you eat it, you can go make another cookie. Right. But to make 10 million is more like baking a cake. A lot of the same ingredients, a little bit different.
Yeah,
recipe,
different.
Right?
It is. 100%.
To be a billionaire, which I'm not there, but you will be. To be a billionaire, it's how do you set up a cake factory, right? Those are the concepts. But I 21 Suggestions of Success is something my dad gave me when I was in high school, and I have it in my house now, and I had it as a kid all the time. And the first one is marry the right person. 90% of your happiness or miseries with that one decision. And one of my other favorite, do work at something that's worthy of your talent and you enjoy. Because if you enjoy something, you're gonna be way better at it than anything else.
Remember when they told us that when we were kids? I don't care what you do, just find what you love. That is a really hard one. Like, I think I spent 25 years wondering what that meant, right? Because work sucks generally, right? Going to work, and you're working at Hardee's. I worked at Lagoon.
Those suck.
And when I look back now, there was certain things I loved. Like working at Hardee's, dude, Saturday morning cinnamon biscuit things, cinnamon raisin biscuit. Man, I pounded those. Yeah. Right? And then sneaking some of those leftovers or the stuff that was supposed to go in the garbage and have a couple. Like, there was certain aspects of the Hardee's job I really liked.
Yeah.
And then Lagoon, freaking loved it. Didn't make nothing for money.
Right.
But there was some awesome lessons there. You know what I learned at Lagoon?
What?
4:30 wake up time.
That's huge.
Because I was landscaping. I didn't work on the rides or anything, but we had to go mow the lawns and weed and water flowers before the people got there. So 4:30. So guess what? Since then, I was 15. 4:30. Like,
it's amazing.
Pretty common. It's just kind of instilled, like, you can wake up early and it's okay. And I learned to appreciate the sunrise and the cold, bitter morning and all the, turning on water. It was just something different about it. Then the next step, you go to, I did freight, like I lumped freight at UW, freight lines.
Yeah.
And then sheds and then whatever it is. But ultimately, I think we need, when they say you need to find something you love to do, I think you can love anything you're doing.
No, I agree
truly.
with that.
It's the people you're working with. It's the mission of whatever it is that you're doing.
It's purpose.
It's purpose. And it shouldn't have to do with money. Even if you're super happy and it only pays $30,000 a year, then you should do that.
Well, you know what's funny? I was happier doing fire than real estate. And if I could have chose
a career path.
And ask my wife, ask Alec, ask anybody who spent time with me, I would have chose fire. I would have given up the multiple six figures, all that stuff with real estate to do fire. I loved fire. And to get to that story, I was doing mortgages at 20. I decided, someone said, hey, you can make this much money doing mortgages, $100,000 a year. To me, that was like 100. It might as well have been 10 million. That sounded
3 years and I'm paid off on my medical bill.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, this is incredible. So I'm going to become a mortgage loan officer at 20 years old. What person wants to use a 20-year-old mortgage loan officer?
Yeah, no one.
Not very many people. So I had to work pretty hard to get that business. But I started getting checks and I fell in love with the idea of working for myself. So I'm going along. We get married. By the way, my wife, my girlfriend at the time, borrowed me the money for bankruptcy. She was working at Shopco for $7 an hour, and she would save 50% of her check for savings.
So you could do your bankruptcy.
Yeah, in high school, she had like $4,000 in the
Wow.
bank. Isn't that amazing?
Yeah, that is awesome.
So she borrows me money for bankruptcy. I was so glad when I could pay her right back with my first commission check, pay it back, you know, and I reinstated all my loans, and I worked towards it. Well, this was 05, 06, right? I'm doing mortgages for a few years. And then I decide, you know what? This loan fraud, you mentioned that. They were doing these loans 80-20, 80% for the first, 20% for the second. And this is going to get into a thought and be indecisive, becoming a millionaire. So 80-20, why is a 20% mortgage so much more money? And I was a mortgage loan officer, so I asked a guy, why is it so much more? Well, they have a lot more risk. So what do you mean? The first can foreclose and wipe out the second. And I said, so if they're behind on their payments, the first gets the house back and the second's just gone, 20%? I mean, that's a decent amount. And they said, yeah. They sent it out of the trustee sales. And I said, I'm going to start buying houses at the trustee sales. Because if I can buy it for what you paid 2 years ago at 80%, and there's 20% plus some appreciation, there's a decent amount of spread there. So my friend Matt got into this. He started doing it. I got into it. I went down to the auction. The first time.
And this was what year?
I was 23 years old. So that would have been 2005, 2006. So I go down to the auction. I'd done research forever, figured it out, went down there, and I'm buying a house.
So, but where did you get that money? So this is the question I think these people are watching.
Like, how did you go buy a house?
Listen, dude, I'm making $8 an hour. My wife works at Shopco.
Yep.
I'm doing mortgages. I just got out of bankruptcy, reaffirmed debt. I've got $400 in my checking account. I know that there's this opportunity that's just abound in the real estate trustee sales because I heard it from my buddy.
And it all came from an idea, a decision.
Come from
I'm
an
gonna
idea.
go buy this house. I'm going to make money.
Now, where do I get my money?
That's easy. A partner.
Okay, so again, we covered this with John Porter on the partnership and how do you get cash. So how does those conversations look?
Well, you have to have a vision.
Lewis, I need to go buy this house. I have $500. And what I need to do is I need to buy a house at the trustees sale, and it's going to be $200,000. And I know that I have to pay within, I don't know the rules, I've never done it. So how fast do you have to pay it?
24 hours.
You have 24 hours. I have to give him 24,000.
And I had to bring a $5,000 check down.
Okay, so I have $500, and that's heavy because it's only $300 less than my paycheck that I got this 2 weeks, right?
Yeah.
So I have $500. Now I need to find a partner that's going to give me $5,000 to go join the auction, and $200,000 within 24 hours of the house I purchase. And he has to believe me that the house I choose is a good idea.
There you go. He has to believe you.
He has to believe you. So pitch me.
Okay. Every good leader, every good salesman is a good storyteller, right?
Right. Sure.
And to pitch you, just know that before this, I read Rich Dad, Poor Dad when I was super broke, and I'm like, I'm going to buy a house. No matter what, I'm going to get a house. I'm going to own rentals. So we bought a house. My friend Matt was the realtor. He found me a foreclosure that we bought a HUD foreclosure for $132,000 that was worth like $160,000.
Okay.
I was living in that.
So when you say
married. My wife, my wife's credit.
And you bought under yourself and you had a deposit.
Yeah,
And how much?
it was like 3.5% down.
So
we had
not
saved
much.
some money. So my wife's savings, right? She had saved up. My
Yep.
wife really should be on here. She should be the one doing the podcast.
Telling you how she's
She's
drugged
like, I
Lewis
bailed
through
out
this whole
freaking
bastard.
idiot. Yeah, I've just rode her coattails is what's happened. So I made some commission checks. We had her savings. We had a down payment.
Okay.
And I was a mortgage loan officer back then.
Okay.
And back then, you could get a loan by breathing. Right. So I was
Check a
actually
pulse.
on the mortgage. We get a mortgage. We buy a foreclosed house that has some equity. I do some research and figure out I can get a line of credit. I can pull out $30,000 from my house. So I had the $5,000 check.
Got it.
So Braden's been was my first business partner, friends forever. He knew how poor I was. He knew
So
my whole life.
Braden was high
Braden
school
Martin.
friend.
Yeah. So I went to high school with his younger brother. His brother went on a mission, and then he came back from mission, and we were family friends.
So you have this conversation. I'm Braden.
I'm Braden. So I'm like, hey, Braden, get this, man. I figured out a way that I think we both could make some money.
Okay.
I do mortgages. Yeah, you're Louis Loans, whatever that's what they used to call me. And I'm like, and I told him the story of the 80-20. I said, so they're going out of these auctions with 20% equity in them, plus they purchased them 2 or 3 years ago because it takes a year or two for the foreclosure process. And I'm like, so now these homes are worth 185, but they purchased them for 160, and we can get them for whatever that math is.
Yeah, 130.
130.
Yeah.
And he's like, wow. But he doesn't know how to do it. And I said, so
Where did he make his money?
he inherited some money, and he had worked hard. He came from a wealthy family. He had a lot of equity in his home. His grandpa gave him a lot, and he built on it.
And the only reason I ask is who is it? So who do we find? Okay, there's somebody that has some inheritance. There's somebody that's had a successful business. Someone that has a little bit of a nest egg that's looking to put it somewhere. Because, I mean, banks don't pay nothing.
Yeah.
We have an account with just about 7 figures in it, and I think it's made like $700 in a year or something.
Right.
It's stupid.
It's
I'm like,
stupid.
is this really what interest does? Because that's dumb.
Yeah.
Right? So obviously we need to find opportunities for that money to grow, right? That's not at the bank.
Yep.
So here
So,
you
he wants an investment. And I said, I've got a deal for you. If I could find one of those and I could prove the value to you, it's worth 180. It's vacant. We can buy it for 130. I do all the work. I use my line of credit. I pull out
Off your house,
$30,000
your HELOC.
off my house. I put the $5,000 down. I go buy the house. I put an additional. I do all the fix-ups myself with that money.
So when you say you go buy the house, you buy it at auction, you only have the repair money, 30 grand.
I have 30 grand.
He has the 130
He has the
grand.
130.
So who holds the mortgage?
He does.
So you're letting him have the title.
Yep.
Got it. Which
He's
is
first
fair.
lien position, and I
Totally
said,
fair.
here's how you're protected.
Just like a bank.
Braden. Yes. If I'm an idiot, here's what I always tell people, worst case scenario. Let's say I'm an idiot. Let's just plan on that. I'm an idiot, and I fell. You now own a house for 130 grand, 125 because I put the 5 original.
Okay.
Then
so you walk away, you'll lose your money and you're not
I'll
even
lose
argue
$5
for
grand.
it back.
I won't even argue for it back.
Okay.
And I will put all the fix-ups into it. So now you have a home worth
125 plus 30,000 repairs that was worth 185 before you did it.
Yep.
Okay.
Now here's the benefit.
Okay.
If I sell it, we'll split the cost 50-50.
Okay. So he's going to say this is where some investors may be irritated.
Yep.
And they should, and then there's other reasons that they shouldn't, right?
Right.
So I do some commercial real estate, and this is kind of the same argument. But at the same time, okay, so Lewis, if I put 130 grand in, you put in 5, you put in 35 grand, but the work. So I'm 130 heavy, and you're 35 light, but you want 50% of the profit.
But I do all the work.
But you do all the
and
work.
you can't do it without me.
You can't, right. So that's leverage, and people have to not be afraid to say it.
And I'll
right?
say it. Yeah.
You should say it.
I'll say, you go do it then.
Don't be afraid to say it. You need to tell your investors that I want 50%. I know that you're cost heavy. So I'll give you an example. We just did a real estate transaction. The deposit was 700 and something thousand. I found 2 partners. I valued the property at whatever we paid, $3 million. And I'm like, okay, we're going to pay $3 million for this real estate piece. I'm going to do the mortgage myself. I'm going to finance it. Our down payment's this much. I'm going to base their down payment on the percentage of equity they want. So they each bought 15%. I said, you're going to buy 15% of the business, right? I'm going to own the title. You own 15% of the business. And here's how the value is. So 15% of $3 million is going to cost you X, 450,000.
Yeah.
Right?
Because you're
Based-
telling the story. You're telling them how it's going to go.
Right. They don't have to do anything. This is a passive investment, right? So here's what you need to put in, right? So at the end of the day, they look at you like, well, hey, how much did you put in? Well, probably less. But I'm going to finance this, but 45%, you're going to put down this percentage, and then I'm going to put it on my I'm going to finance it, and then I'm going to do the work, and then you'll get 15% of the equity increase, and then the monthly rental income.
Yeah.
So surprisingly enough, more people wanted to do it than didn't want to do it, right?
Yeah.
Because it was a way undervalued property. We picked it up at like $28 a foot,
Yeah, that's amazing.
right? On a commercial real estate piece with 10.5 acres of dirt. So, hey, that's a good deal. So there was people that are asking if they can participate. So here I sit at 70% equity stake with a lot less down, but I mortgaged it.
Yeah.
So even though those conversations seem hard and awkward, like, hey, Lewis, here's the deal. I need to buy this building. You're going to put all the money down.
But
I'm
I
going to
get
finance
70%
it,
of it. Yeah.
and I'm going to own 70%. They can say no.
Yeah.
It's okay.
It's fine.
But that is where I think the majority of all of us are going to be feeling super selfish and greedy by saying, look, I'm going to buy this property, and you guys are going to put all my money down. and I'll fund it and I'll do the work, and then we'll split the profits.
Well, how about this?
70% for me, 30% for you.
How about this? I'll talk about the house that Alec and I bought.
Okay.
We have virtual assistants in the Philippines that call 6,000 people a month
Okay.
to find deals for us. We call on these properties. We're not trying to talk you down or beat you. We're not going to go to the old lady who doesn't know what her house is worth, right? We give you a few options. We say, we'll sell your house for top dollar. That's what you want to do. This is what it looks like. We'll stage it and do all this. You're going to have a bunch of people walk through your house. You're going to go through negotiations, appraisals, inspections, all that, blah, blah. Or we'll just pay cash for it. Here's what we'll pay, knowing that you're paying for convenience, right?
Yeah, you don't have to deal with anything.
You don't have to deal with anything. You can leave the crap all over. The house smells like pee, all that. That's fine. Here's your number. But here's how we got to that number. You're going to pay these costs. We have to. And if you're just straight up with them, like, I'm not going to buy your house unless I make 30 grand.
Period.
That's stupid. It's a bad investment. So if I make 30 grand and there's 30,000 in fix-ups, I need at least a $60,000 spread, right? You just say it to them like they're a human being and they understand and they get it. And they go, okay. So we buy
people
this
don't
house.
talk like that, and that's where people get hesitant.
Businessmen
right?
do, though.
Businessmen do. Shady shysters don't. They're like,
Exactly.
look, I'm not making any money on this deal. And you're like, horse.
Just tell me. I won't do a deal unless it's good for you.
You better make money.
If you don't make money, I don't want to do business with you because you're
Right.
lying.
Right.
You're lying somewhere.
Amen.
Right? So I don't like that. So we buy this property. It was worth 120 when we purchased it. That's where the comps were coming in. It's a tiny little house on Jefferson. Teeny little house. So we tell the guy, it's worth 120 grand. I haven't even walked inside. What do you want for it? If we're going to have to get your tenant out. He's like, oh, she stinks. She smells bad, whatever. You know what I mean? Like, it needs a lot of work. It needs a new roof. It needs new this. Well, you start saying all those things. There's not, when you're talking a $120,000 house, you
know
need
how
at
much
least
margin.
$40,000 spread to even make any money, right? And we're thinking about keeping it for a long-term hold. And I start looking at it as like 85 grand's probably fair if we're going to get it, because we're going to have to put the roof on and costs have gone up. We're going to have to kick the tenant out and we're going to have vacancy. We're going to have this. We're going to probably have 15,000 in repairs. I don't even want it, though. I don't even want it. And here's the power of no. I'm talking to the guy, and I'm like, well, honestly, 85 is probably fair. And that's what you want, but I'm not going to pay it. So I think we should list it. And he's like, well, what would you pay? And I said, I don't want to offend you. Well, what would you pay? I'm like, the most I'd pay is 75 grand. But I get it if you don't want to sell it to me for that. Totally. I think it's better if you kick the tenant out, you're a painter, you clean it up, we'll list it on the MLS. You'll get more money. He says, let me think about it. 2 weeks go by. He calls me back. I'll do the 75.
Just didn't want to deal with it anymore.
I want the convenience. She's calling me now. There's a clogged toilet. There's this. There's that. You might have to replace the, drain out front. This, that. The service line.
The water main.
The water
Or the sewer
main.
main.
All that. I'm like, okay, sewer line. Main line. I'm like, okay. Talk to Alec. Let's buy it. We don't use our money at all.
Right.
I go to a hard money investor and say, I'll give you 8% interest rate, which most of them are 10% plus 2 points up front. I have an awesome family member who would just let us have the money.
In your direct family.
Direct family. Yeah, would let us have the money.
So what are your recommendations on working with direct family? People have friends and family. Like they say, friends, families, fools, right?
Yeah.
So-
I haven't shied away from it as long as you're fair and you have things in writing. As long as there's correct upfront I hate expectation, upfront agreements. If you go off expectation, like you're my buddy and you're going to help me out, I'm going to borrow you 25 grand. You're going to double my money. But if
They need
there's
to know
no
what it looks like.
they need to know exactly. So this family member who I'm not going to name would borrow us the money and just be like, yeah, just pay me back when you're done. No, I want you to make money. So
What kind of number do you think is fair for them to make?
I'm fine with paying them normal. I would pay them 10% plus 2 points because I would pay somebody else, a stranger.
So 10% annualized,
Yep.
2% closing fee. So what that looks like for people is $75,000. 2% is
75,000
is $1,500.
Yeah, it's $1,500 bucks.
Right. So you're going to add $1,500, and that'll go.
And
that
then
means now you owe
75
$76,500.
Yep.
In order to pay that debt off
Correct.
today.
Correct.
And then you're going to do a multiplier of 10% annualized.
Yep.
Compounding, if you're not, are you making payments through the year
Yeah,
as you remodel?
making payments.
So you are making
Otherwise,
a
it
payment.
would compound. Yep.
So are you doing interest-only payments?
Interest only.
So, for example,
all profit.
What's your payment on $75,000?
It was like 500 and something bucks.
Okay, so you're paying $500 a month in interest payments.
But you still owe them 75 grand.
Still $76,500.
76.5. Sorry, you owe
Yep.
them 76.5 plus the 500. And then the next month, 500, 500.
And that 765 is not changing because it's interest only. Now,
interest only.
if you wanted to pay that down, most investors don't want you to do that.
They
just
want that
their interest check, right? They're looking for their mailbox money.
Yep.
So if you're looking at an opportunity to try to take down real estate, from what we're getting at is you find somebody, which a lot of us, let's be honest, that's an overwhelming task to find anybody that even has money.
And that's what's funny. That's the easiest part. You find a deal, you can find money.
But where do they look?
Well, you can Google it. You can call me. We know tons
Lewis
of investors.
Weaver. But again, where Google? How would you Google?
Hard money lenders.
Hard money real estate lenders.
Hard money real estate lenders.
Right. And so that's intimidating.
Sure. And you don't know the rules and the verbiage and all that.
And the big thing I can tell you on these, hard money can be as scary as the title. Mm-hmm. But at times it isn't. Like they're just blunt. What I love is, I don't remember the guy. I know this name. I don't want to talk about it because I'm not here to advertise his. But what I love is this. He's like, look, I'll give you $3 million. I need 2% on my money. He says, I'm going to charge you 8%. He's
2
like,
points,
look,
8%.
Your property sits in a good spot. He goes, let's be honest with you. The appraisal is going to be this. You're going to be putting down $700,000. We didn't use this guy. We used a bank, but I talked to him last minute because they were taking forever to close. He's like 2% up front. You're going to owe me, $3 million, so $3,060,000 or whatever that number is, and then you're going to owe me your valuations are this much, and you're going to put in $700,000 down. He goes, to be honest with you, I don't give a you pay your payment or not. I don't care.
I'll take the property.
I'll just take the property, and I'm buying it for 2.2, and you're already stealing it. So you're buying it $28 a foot. I'm going to get it for $20 a foot. Just don't pay me. I don't really care,
and I'll be really happy.
I don't really care.
You just bought me a property at a huge
But I
discount.
love the fact he was that blunt. I was like, I like that. Like it is pretty refreshing, and some people would take it is off-putting to somebody that's new in business. I think, like, just don't pay me, I'll take it. But you realize that is their business, just
That's
like
the
you selling a
conversation
hamburger.
Of business. Yeah,
that is it. It's
that's
not
it.
mean. It's just that's how he's made his money and how he's afforded his opportunity to loan money. And same with your family member. You should afford them the opportunity or the ability to be just like this hard money guy. And you should not treat those family members or friends any different.
Yeah,
they're
not a charity.
So here's kind of how I would do it if I was to address it with you. I'd say, hey, Lewis, I've got this house. It's $200,000. I work at the fire station. I can't even bounce a check because they won't sell me checks. I don't have enough in checking.
Right.
But here's the deal. I've done construction my whole life, and tile and concrete and roofing and framing, and I suck at drywall, but I can make my way through it, and I can paint like a level 6. But I can do all of it.
Yeah.
The issue is I can't put my deposit down, and I know you have money, and it's awkward to ask, right? But here's my thoughts. I think I can buy this house for $130,000, or it's worth $135,000. I think I can get it for $85,000.
Right.
I want to give you your $85,000 back, whatever
starting
you're
with value. Here's the value to you.
And I'm going to add a 2% fee to that, so there's another $1,700. So now it's $86,500, right, or $86,700. And then on top of that, if it takes me a year to turn, I want to give you another $8,600. So we're going to give you $96,000 on $85,000, and I can promise you the bank's not paying $10,000 on your $86,000 your money this year. To secure that, I'm going to give you 100% title ownership. I am here in passive, so this is on an interest only deal. But to make it even sexier, we're going to split the profit we make 50-50. So especially when you're doing your initial deals, I would not only give them the interest for their money, the 2% closing costs for their money,
But give them the upside.
but give them 50% of the upside as well. And right now it feels like you lost, and you probably are a little bit, and you didn't lose, period, right? If you made $1, you won. But the point is, in your heart, you have to keep yourself disconnected from feeling like you just got screwed, right?
Yep.
You really can't say, hey, look, I just got screwed. That guy got his $85,000 plus another $10,000 with
Plus
closing costs and
50%.
equity. So now he got $95,000, and we sold the house for $135,000. So his check's $115,000 or $117,000, and mine's $18,000. So I brought the deal together. This is the story you'll get, right? And it seems like I hear it from friends, right?
Oh, yeah.
Well, I totally got screwed by Lewis, man. He came in, he gave me the money, and then he charged me, $8,500 in interest, and then he charged me a closing cost. I write him a check for $100,000. We sold this house for $140,000. He ends up taking another $22,000. I got $18,000. I did all the freaking work for a year. I made $18,000. Well, Lewis walks away with $40,000. It's bull. He screwed me, right? And then you're like, wait a second.
Victim
First
mentality.
off, right, just like what you talked about, you knocked on that door.
You asked.
You had no opportunity, tools, or ability to execute that transaction.
Yep.
Right. And so what we need to look at it as is it's a lens game, right? We have to look at it with a different lens and say, hey, look, this has afforded me. And if you're doing it right, you're still working your other job.
Right.
So you're paying your bills. Now you have $18,000. So now you can approach Lewis and say, look, I want to buy this house. It's $85,000. I want to borrow from you $65,000.
Yep.
Right? The interest goes down. Now you're going to pull in $24,000. And then the next time you're going to pull in $30,000. The issue that we have today with, it doesn't matter if you're millennial, whatever they call them now, Gen Z, I don't know anymore what
Yeah, I
all
don't
these
even know
different
what
things are
generation we
anymore.
are, yeah.
We'll call them Kens. But ultimately, just kidding. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
But not really.
Yeah.
Well, I had to do it. But we'll call them like, hey, these expectations that I'm not being treated fairly. The bottom line is
You said expectation, though.
again,
Upfront agreement.
Upfront agreement. So like we have these false sense of what's fair. The bottom line is if you're working, you're earning, you're building, and we want, our expectation is we should be a millionaire after our first transaction.
Right.
Right. And some people, 1 out of a million, get there. And that's not even something I think we should strive for. I think we should fail along the way. But at the same time, if we're looking at it as an opportunity to build a business, to build some equity, to learn how to do those lessons, and here's the deal. You are going to college of real estate and flipping homes on Lewis's dollar or whoever your partner is.
Thank you.
Right?
Yeah.
You are doing this at 100% risk of Lewis. He is your sponsor through this education process. And to feel any sense of animosity, even if you only made $2,000 out of the 135,000 or broke even, now you know how to do the conversation, how to
know
do
how to make
close
the
with the
cookie.
money, right? You've built your recipe. And maybe a shitty recipe, maybe
But it
they didn't
works.
work, but you've got a chocolate chip cookie. Now you can say, next time I'm going to do a little less of this and a little more of this.
Yeah. Is it perfect? No.
Never.
Is
And it
good
shouldn't
enough?
ever be.
Yeah. Is it good enough? Yeah. It got you education. This is what bothers me. Everyone comes to real estate and says, I want to learn. Man, if I could make the money you made, I would love to do that. I want to do that. That would change my entire life. Okay, well, I'll take time, hours, energy. I will teach you how to do that. I will teach you how to become a millionaire.
But I don't want to pay you.
But I don't want to pay you. Oh, so you want what I have,
But you don't want to
but
sacrifice.
you don't want to sacrifice anything. Alex, the exact opposite.
He
Alex
takes it without even asking.
Yeah, he just bam.
What?
No. this guy, we were working in the fire department together. Because I tore my pec and I went on days and he was doing logistics. And he saw how much real estate I'd come in at like 4 a.m. and then I'm getting calls and I'm doing all this stuff. And he saw it. So he went and got his license without even talking to me. And then, so he took the effort. He moved forward, said, I'm going to do it. And then he came to me and said, I'm a little bit nervous,
You should be.
but I got my real estate license. And I said, okay. And what do you think about it? I'm like, I think it's awesome. And he's like, is there any way you'd be willing to help me? I said, sure. I'll give you advice. I'll help you. I'll do whatever. He gets into real estate. Well, he adds value to me. He's like, what can I do for you? You know, I'll show houses. I'll write up contracts. I just want to learn. He did the thing that everyone needs to do if you want to become rich. Pay to learn before you pay to earn. He was putting in the dues to learn. He wanted to just come
Why
help
does everybody
me for
want to
free.
skip that?
I don't get
It's a
it.
felicity that people feel like they can skip the step.
Yeah, that's what it is. He comes up and works with me for free, is all of his days off.
So here's
to
where I
learn.
think that's the holdback for people. The
Yeah.
majority of holdback that people don't want to take that chance is they want to not put in that.
No.
They're like, look, I do it, except, I can't afford to do it. Okay, well, you can't both. Like, you're going to have to take the step that you can't afford to do it for a while, and then you're going to have to work 2 jobs or 3 jobs or 4 jobs and Saturdays and Sundays. I think I told you I was at Fox this weekend, and Murdoch's truck was there, and they said 7 days a week, early, late. He doesn't have to work.
And for people
Right.
who don't know, he owns Fox.
Fox. He owns
He's a
Fox.
billionaire.
Right. And he's there, and then the security guy's like, oh, no, you don't become a billionaire if you're not working 7 days a week. So he's still putting forth that effort, which is super impressive to me.
Sure.
I'm like, man, he was parked right next to us, beat us there, and left after. And we were there late, right? So I'm like, man, even that guy, everybody's like, oh, man, how lucky would that be? You can have a yacht, you can have a jet. That guy doesn't even use them probably, right? I mean, sure he does, but to a very limited amount. He's dedicated to his craft. And I think he's still in there learning. And again, you come to work every day. We learn. We try to do our best. We try to make mistakes. And I think this is one of the transitions that I've done over the last 5 to 7 years. is I try to make them. And it's not that I'm looking to fail right out the gate, but I look forward to these. And so let's say that this deal went south, and now not only do I owe Lewis his money, it took 2 years. Yes, people, he's going to get his interest for the next year.
Right.
Yes, he may have a delay clause, which you should build in for yourself because that puts a limit.
Right.
Like, this is your deal. Like, when you come over to Lewis, you should say, hey, look, I'm going to pay you back. We're going to sell within a year. It's got a 2% closing cost. If it ends up having to extend, I'm going to give you another 5% penalty, and the interest will go from 10 to 12%. Like, these need to be punitive to you, and you should craft them.
Yep.
You should craft them, because then the investors will look at you like, look, this guy is not out to try to just get free money from me. He's so willing to even actually at the end of the day, if it took the full 2 years, now he's going to have to pay me an extra $5,000 out of his own pocket for the deal not going south. And then he's also given me the opportunity after month 12 or 15 or 18 that I can liquidate the property if I so choose.
Yep.
Right. So if you introduce all these different hurdles to your investor, you're going to get the best results on what you're looking for you. But it has to be one of those things that are willing to give everything back to the person that's taking a chance on you. And I think if you're looking at it in the sense that I'm willing to pay whatever it costs to learn from this man, mentor, investor, even whoever that person is, that they're willing to, and they believe in me enough, I'm not going to look at them as greedy because they're trying to make money with their money. That's what we all are doing. You're doing the same thing.
When you go to work, you're doing the same thing.
You're doing the same thing. Just don't villainize the person, because that's what they're doing. They've got a job that they're going to work with every day, but they have money that needs to go to work every day too. And it can be a turnoff. We had our first line of credit, and I'm going to use this group. It's been amazing. It's called Decathlon. Right? They've been great. His name's Wayne Cantwell. If anybody's looking for it, it is expensive as right?
Yeah.
17% interest.
Right.
Cheaper than a credit card and cheaper than equity, right? Than giving part of your equity away. You can choose if you're going to do a credit card, or if you're going to do bank lines, or if you're going to do equity, right?
Whatever, yeah.
Equity in the long run would have been way more. So let's do this. I'll play it out. I'm not embarrassed about it. It's been a great learning lesson for Murphy Door.
Okay.
$1,250,000, right? 17% over a 5-year term compounding is $2.5 million, right? So when you're paying these interest payments, they balloon over a percentage of revenue, right? So it's a super straightforward deal. If you look at it in an aspect of, you can borrow $1,250,000. If you take 5 years to pay it off,
it's going to cost you.
It's going to cost you 2.5. Now, here's the unique piece that we screwed up on. 1.25. We did 1.25 million. This is when we onboarded Home Depot. We needed money. I worked in the fire department. This is 2016. Right.
Yeah, not a lot
Still
of your buddies are going to have
full-time
$1 million to hand.
No one did. And
Yeah.
you think Zion's? I've been in business for full time, none, 0 days. Like I started June 2016 full time at Murphy Door.
Right.
I was doing fire before. So like, look, I need to borrow $1,250,000. You think Zion's is going to talk to you with there's no assets to collateralize.
Yeah, mostly private bankers. You have to be a millionaire to even talk to them.
To even talk to them, right? So they're like, look, and so we do private banking at Zion's, and we've been fortunate enough there. But at the same time, I had no assets to collateralize this $1,250,000 drawback, right? So I had to look at other sources, and I knew that we were ready to launch into a different realm of what our revenue was. So if I was to give away equity, that $1,250,000 was going to cost me 10, right? More than likely, because they were going to do a 40 or 50% equity play. Because I mean, honestly, it may have been worth $2.5 million at the time.
Right.
So they'd say, hey, look, yeah, we'll give you $1,250,000, but we want 40% equity or 50% equity, and we have somebody that's not working that owns half the company that you have to answer. And if you screw up on your decisions, they're going to make the decisions for you, and you may find yourself still owning half the company, but not working there anymore, right? Because that's how these terms look. So if you ever look for PE or VC money, private equity or venture capital, be very aware of the contract. Read them. They're 100 pages long. They are out to protect the investors. They may seem mean. They're not. That's just what they do,
That's
right?
just life.
That is what they do. So with Decathlon, I was able to get best of both worlds. One, an interest-only loan with no collateralization other than my trademark, because I didn't have any,
Yep.
right? So they collateralized Murphy Door, the registered trademark of Murphy Door. They had the right to file UCCs on any new assets outside of the bank filing, right? So they had an umbrella.
That's fair.
And then they said, okay, you got 5 years to pay us. Now, if you take longer than 12 months, interest matures into its full amount. So there's no reason to pay me off early,
Yeah.
right? So if you paid off within a year, you can pay 17%. If you go to 366 days, now you owe $2.5 million. So it is presented as a 17% interest annualized because you get it over a 5-year term. But if you take longer than 1 year exactly, then it doubles.
Yep.
So period. So now what we did is we did the math. Okay, here we paid it all off. We thought last month or 2 months ago we were all paid up. Well, we did it off principal 17% and paying down principal what didn't capture. So when we finally went and said, hey, what's our payoff statement? Well, we get the notice back and you still owe this much money. We're like, what the frick? Like, it doesn't make sense. Well, at the end of the day, they showed us the statement. We paid this, million, almost $2 million. You still owe a little bit. I'm like, son of a bitch. Well, my CFO was not thrilled. She's like, well, I did the math right. And she did in her world. But the terms and the structure of the agreement was we double our money, right? So we're still, $500,000 away, which will still be paid off in February or whatever, April. I mean, you got big payments. You're talking $70,000 a month payments, right? So here we sit, and it's fine. Thank goodness Murphy Door. It doesn't really matter. You've done it for 5 years. You get there, right? And by the way, it started like at 15,000, and it starts to grow towards the end of the term.
Sure.
So it was really disappointing. But as we sat with the board, and I called John, and I said, hey, look, here's the deal. We did our math wrong. It isn't paid off. This is why. Well, I really love John Porter and his mature response. He goes, well, that's a real bummer, right? We were hoping that was paid off, but the deal's the deal. If we haven't paid what the deal was, then it is the deal, right? So there's no reason to cry over that. It's okay. It's okay. But here's the deal. We knew up front what that was going to cost us if we took one more day than a year. And because we misunderstood, it doesn't change the fact that we agreed to something. So there should be no angry, animosity, frustration. You can feel bad. You're like, oh, that would have been really cool to be paid off. But that's where it has to stop emotionally. Did I go home and lose any sleep? Not even a wink. Not even a wink. Why? Because Wayne Cantwell was clear, concise, and descriptive exactly what to expect.
Yep.
And I think this is where people fold. And this is where I'll be honest, that for a second, I was like, man, that's a real bummer. I'm pissed, right? Because I was tasting this extra $70,000 in net profit every month, right? Man, this will be good. It's an extra $1 million a year. We won't say no to that, right? But that was about all it lasted.
Yeah.
And I can see where my old me, and I'm not going to say other people, my old me, my 5 year ago me, would have been like, I can't believe I'm getting totally screwed here. This guy's taking, I have paid this money. He has made his 17% interest, and this is it, and this is horse, and I'm getting screwed, right? Well, but the thing is 5 years ago we did this handshake deal, and it said exactly what the total is going to look like. He has not changed who he was from the minute the agreement was. So here's the deal. The better we are, the more fair we are with others, and the better the structure is that we create, we can create a really fair structure on our terms that investors will be really willing to invest in, because they look at you as if you're being fair. You're being genuine in your ability or your desire to be fair.
Right.
Now, the next trick is when the money comes in, checks first over there.
Yep.
Do not go cash it and deposit it in your account.
Investor first.
I call up and say, hey, Lewis, guess what? Got the paycheck, Big Daddy. Want to come with me to the bank and cash it? More than likely, your investor's like, no big deal.
Just wire it, whatever,
just get me a wire in, and out of respect, you should always wire their money before you put in your own. It's just the way it should work. And then I can promise you this. You'll never, ever look for money again. And here's why. Lewis will always be there to write you a check, right? And not only that, anybody that Lewis is sitting at lunch, dinner, phone, or any other meeting is like, dude, I just did a deal with freaking Alec. And you know what? This guy presented a term that was more than adequately fair, right? And then not only that, he executed at the time, he did extend. He immediately credited me the 5% on the extension. He increased the interest payments that he agreed to. I never called. He sent me a statement every month of what he owed me, right? We do our statements every month. We send them to our people. We send financials to all our people. They know, right? And so Decathlon's always like, dude, like, hey, you miscalculated this, right? And they're usually in their favor, like based on your monthly payment on revenue, right?
Yeah.
So anyway, if you're that person, I can promise you I can call Wayne today and say, I need $3 million. I need $5 million. He'd be like, awesome. Where do you want to sign? We have done deals now that the paperwork's this big and they're the same documents. And of course I send it to my attorneys, and of course we spend a lot of money for them to be reviewed, and they should be $2,000 to $5,000 in review, especially if you're talking that. It's the cost of doing business, but make sure you do it. Don't pretend like you know what it means. you have it reviewed by a reputable attorney.
Don't be afraid to look stupid.
Don't be afraid to look stupid. Just
Don't be
say, I
afraid.
don't know. I want the tattoo on my forehead, like I said. I just don't know. So you put your money out there. You treat your people as if their value is more, and they're going to tell every single person about you. And then when I promise you it's worked for me, and I can't take any credit. It's Sandra Jensen that sits in that room that makes our financials and makes our bankability look like a paper, right? Simply because we are proactively discussing where we are or where we're not. Good news and bad. There is months. Lewis, dude, not going to happen.
Yeah.
We're going to be not next week, and probably not the next week, and more than likely not the next week. But the following week, we're going to get you payment, and we're going to give you a little late fee money.
Yep.
Right? And then I'll call you next week and let you know if anything changes. But I will call you every week to let you know what's changing.
Because guess what? People you owe money to can pay their bills.
They
So
better.
if you're fair to them, they're
They'll
good to you.
understand it.
And what's funny is I say leverage is life, and I don't mean that in a negative way. Like when I was with Braden, I used my leverage on knowledge of what I could do, a little of my money, a lot of his money. So that deal closed, and I worked on it night and day. Me and my wife did, and my friend Matt came up and painted the house for us. We made $29,500 in a month, and we closed 1 month later. So 2 months, he got $15,000 and didn't have to do anything
On 100 and...
on 100-something thousand. You know,
Right. That's
that's
freaking
great money.
good for him. He's
Yeah.
like, can I write you a check?
Yeah, so he
Can I give you
wasn't. When I remember they showed up, and I go, "Here's your check." I gave it before we deposited ours, just like you said. Here's a $15,000 check. He was a pretty happy guy. So the next house comes up. But if you guys remember history, this is like 07, 08. I rolled up to a house that, I'm getting a little cocky now, right? I've done one deal. It went,
Hey,
it went
get
awesome.
out of the way.
I'm pretty legit at this point. I roll up. I'm a little late to the auction. I'm like, how bad can it be? It looks pretty good. I go and buy it for $170,000. It's worth like $250 something. Like, this can be a good one. I knock on the door and I hear, "Who is it?" Oh boy. This is after I bought the house. And it should have been a sign that the garage was kind of not shut all the way. That's always a sign. The house is a pile of, how you do anything is how you do
Oh,
everything.
because you can't shut it.
You can't even shut your garage. There's a bunch of junk in there. It's broken. The inside's not going to look any better. So the door opens to about a 350, 400-pound Samoan woman and a much angrier husband that was larger telling me to get off their porch or they were going to kill me. So I had a lot of algorithmic thinking going on. Like, what do I do at this point? You know, like, hold on. Don't kill the messenger. I'm just letting you know, someone, good cop, bad cop, someone bought your house at the auction. Are you guys the owners? No, we're renters. I'm so sorry, blah, blah, blah. So I build this relationship with them. What if we got you out in the next couple of weeks? We'll pay you a few $1,000s to leave, blah, blah, blah. Market starts right in the middle of all this. So we go, it takes some time to get out. I had to use 4 40-yard dumpsters to get all their stuff out. There was holes in the floors. They had destroyed the railings. People downstairs broke the shower. They just showered anyways. There was water damage everywhere. I went $22,000 over budget. Didn't have the money to pay people to work on it, so I was there 7 days a week, 12 to 16 hours a day, learning how to do stuff, calling on friends, asking people who had expertise in fields.
Do you know how to
helping
do
me out.
tile?
Yeah, exactly. Can you help me lay this tile? Can you do this? Show me how to do this. Just show me how and I'll do it. Well, after all that, we were profitable. After 9 weeks, we made $4,500 that I split with them.
So what?
So how much did I learn, though? That house has taught me more money than any other house in the whole world. I learned more from that transaction than anything else. We lucked out. We got rid of the house in the falling market. We didn't lose. I lost a lot of money if you count my time, but I looked at it as education. Well, another person was watching, and they swung in, and these people were pretty wealthy. And they said, "What happens if you lose money?" I'm like, "My investor's not going to lose anything." They said, "How's that?" I'm like, "I'll pull out my retirement. I'll do whatever." Braden's not going to have a problem. Braden will break even.
Sure.
I will lose the money. And they're like, "Well, okay, So we sell that house. The market crashes. The rates come down. We decide, hey, we're going to do a better line of credit for Braden. We're going to increase his line of credit so he has more money to lend. We pull his line of credit, refinance his house. To do that, they won't give us the line of credit back. They're like, "We're not stupid. The market's falling. Your house is worth less every day. We're not going to give you a line of credit." So I try for months and months and months. Well, guess who comes along? Those people who watch me. "You need money? We got a few million. how many houses you want to do. We saw what you did on the last one. We saw your work ethic. We saw how you wouldn't let your investor lose money. We'll borrow you at 8%. No points up front.
Yeah,
that's pretty good,
huge.
right? But they said at first, we want 50% of the, we'll just borrow it to you for free, but we want 50%. And I said, nope, won't do it. And she goes, what do you mean? I'm like, well, I've got some experience. I've only done 2 deals, but I'm figuring it out. And you have the money. If I give you the knowledge, I just said it straight to her face. You have the money. If I give you the knowledge, you don't need me. So I'll take your money, but you have to be a private investor, and I'll pay you more. She goes, I respect that. That's fair. Okay. No.
So when you say, I'll give you the money, but you have to be a private investor.
Or silent investor.
Silent investor.
Not private. Silent investor. You'll be first lien position. But you don't have any ownership in my company is flipping. She wanted 50% ownership, not of the deal, equity. Of my equity of the company I was building.
No.
And I said, no way. No way. I'm not letting somebody else control my business. The people who are watching this, they're probably thinking a lot of this might be over their head, or I'm not trying to, some people, I mean, it's over my head, a lot of what we're talking about. Sure. But if they're trying to just get started, like what you said at the beginning, you have to start with leverage. If you don't have any leverage, you have to find a mentor to help you, right? Get those steps. Then know at the beginning of whatever you're going to do, you're going to have to put in more effort. If you don't have the money or the deal or the knowledge, guess what you're putting in? Effort. And you're working to learn. Right? Once you learn, you can take that knowledge, start leveraging that knowledge and earning.
Even if it's $100 at a time.
Even if it's $100, whatever. Like I said, the most house that's made me the most money collectively in my life was the one I made $4,500 on. Right? Because I learned so much. Once you have that knowledge, you start earning. Mm-hmm. Once you start, then leverage starts going the other way. Once you start really getting good at something and passionate about it, and you put in those extra hours and you get better and better, now you have others reaching out to you saying, I want to work with you.
They're trying to leverage you now.
Now they're trying to leverage you, and you go, well, we can make this leverageship like Alec and I. We can have this beneficial.
It'll cost
I have the
you
knowledge
less
and the money. You do the time. You go work on this. I'll fund it, but you go work on this, and I'll show you how to do it. So now you can start scaling. You taught me that, how I needed to scale, because I was just a fireman closing 30, 40 deals a year in real estate, working 100 hours a week. That's what I was doing. I just did everything.
Let's go from 2007. The market starts to crash. Now you said you're a fireman.
Yeah.
How come? Like all of a sudden you're doing successful flips.
I'm doing successful flips. I'm making 100, 200,000 a year, thinking I am the man. Are you kidding me? I'm 20 something years old. I made 43 grand last month. No one is cooler than me. I got really into how impressed I was with myself.
It's easy to do.
Which is terrible. You don't want to do, that's just so you guys know.
But it's easy.
It's easy. You know why? Because everyone around you starts giving you accolades. Oh my gosh, you're amazing. I want to be around you. You're wonderful. But I am. I start getting really into my own impressive. Man, I'm impressive. And when you start worrying about how impressive you are, you're starting to go down. It's not good. Like
complacency builds.
And I went from, I can do anything. I'm the man. So I'm going to buy this lot to build a big, nice house on. I'm going to buy a BMW. I'm going to buy this. I'm going to buy that, to the market crashing. And now, not only all the money in my bank is gone, but I've leveraged into my line of credit. And now I've got to pay my mortgage payment out of my line of credit. I'm worth nothing.
Yeah, negative.
And you know how humbling that is when you thought you were the man?
That's my favorite humbling ever. I've done it twice. Yeah, I get it.
It's like, oh, wow, I guess I'm not that cool. You know? So what did I have to do to get successful again? Go back to the beginning. Well, I'm going to learn something. You know what? The bankruptcy really hurt me. This really hurt me. Someone says, I need to find a way. I can't give up the entrepreneur thing, but I need to find a way to get health benefits because that's important, and I couldn't pay for them at the time.
Especially with your health history.
Yeah. I've had 3 open heart surgeries, 1 up my leg at this point. But this is fast forwarding to now. So at that time, I had 2. I had the 21-year-old and the infant heart surgery. I'm like, I got to have health benefits. Plus, we're going to start a family. I need health benefits. And at first, my wife was getting health benefits, but they weren't going to increase them to like $1,000 a month because she worked for the small company. And I'm like, well, you know what? Someone says, why don't you become a firefighter? They only work 10 days a month, and they have great benefits. Mm-hmm. I'm like, oh, and I get a pension, and I get and I got to go kick doors in and all that stuff. But hey, I'm a heart patient, man. I get dizzy when I run. I don't know if this is going to work. Mm-hmm. So what did I do? I call around to a few chiefs. Hey, I call a few firefighters. Hey, what's it like? I think you could do it. Yeah, as long as you pass the physical. Here's what you got to do. Call a couple chiefs. Would you hire me? I've had heart surgery. Here's my issues. Would you hire me? Well, yeah, if you can pass the physical and this and our doctors approve it, yeah, we're good. So I decided to join the fire academy. And that's a whole nother, so I could talk for hours about that because at this point in my life, I was pretty cocky. I'd been humbled, but I hadn't learned how to let people yell at me. I did not take you yelling in my face
very well.
Well, in the fire academy, you can't do that. And I almost got kicked out, pushed my instructor against the wall, lost my temper, had to learn that I got to eat crow now because none of these guys are going to be on my resume. It's a small world in fire, and I've just pissed everybody off. But to their credit, when I came back in that door, because I called my wife and I'm like, I'm quitting. I just made $30,000 on a flip. I don't know why I'm doing this stupid fire thing. And she goes, again, everything's her. She goes, I don't care if you ever become a firefighter, but if you quit, it's going to bug you the rest of your life. So however bad it is, just finish.
Yeah. Amen with everything, right?
Yeah.
When it comes to that, finish whatever you start.
If you say what you do what you say. So I go back in there sheepishly because I was the a-hole that pushed someone against the wall and walked out. And I'm like, I don't want to quit anymore. I think I'm going to stay. And they're like, let's go have a conversation. And the chief said, here's the beauty about fire. We see the best in you and we see the worst in you. Today was the worst. I can't wait to see the best.
Oh, that was
You've
nice.
got a black mark on you now, and it's going to be tough. We're going to be hard on you. And they were. But if you make it out of here, maybe you can change our mind. And that's what I did. At the end, they put their names on my resume. They were awesome people. I was one of the first people to get a full-time job. Because I decided from that point, I'm done with impressing myself. I'm done with ego. I do not care. I am just going to work my butt off and become the best fireman I can. Mm-hmm. And that was a big change. That taught me a lot about business. I owe all my success in business to the fire world.
Amen.
How do you deal with people that you don't like to work with?
Yeah.
How do you deal with conflict? How do you have the algorithmic thinking? How,
Plan A, B, C, D.
I guess what? It's just on you, bud. They're not calling anybody else. It's 2 a.m. It's freezing cold. You got to figure it out.
You were there from 2010?
Yeah, 2010 to 2019.
Okay, so then what was your deciding factor to leave? So let me go back and say, okay, you were still doing your stuff on the side when stuff started to pick up.
Yeah, and I can give you a quick synopsis because we keep going off, because it's too fun to talk. But so I get into fire. I was so stoked. Here I'm making 30
Where'd you get your
grand
first job?
Ogden?
South
Ogden.
Yep.
They give me a job for $7.92 an hour. $7.92 an hour. And I was so...
2010, you guys.
Yep.
$8.
$8. And let me tell you how excited I was. Because I had committed to this. I'm going to be a fire guy. I don't care what it costs. I don't care how little I make. I can make money on the side. I'm going to do this for me. I really want... And the benefits. Because back then, you could get 50% in 20 years. I was in, man. I was going to do that. So I don't care it's $7.92 an hour. I don't care if they kick the crap out of you at the first year and you're everybody's boot and you got to work your butt off. Didn't care about any of that. I was at Home Depot when I got the phone call. I had kind of crappy reception and I'm trying to listen and I've got a whole pallet of tile. And I'm like, what? And they're like, we want to offer you the job. I forgot the tile, ran off like an idiot. Everyone just thought I won the lottery. I'm jumping up and down in the parking lot at 29 years old, right? Just losing my mind, so excited. Or I was younger than that, but because I got full-time at 29, I was probably 28, 27. I'm just freaking out, just screaming, for $7.92 an hour. So jazzed, so pumped. Then I get a job at Roy. That's where I met you.
And it's not even like, this isn't like 1980.
No.
This is 2010,
This
people.
is 2010, yeah.
To tell you what that looks like.
So when I worked part-time at Roy, was with you.
Yeah.
And then I got full-time Ogden within a year, but just after they changed Tier 2. I was some of the first handful
Tier
of people
2s.
that got Tier 2.
Yeah.
And I was like, man, I got to work 25 years at 37. So the other people that work 25, they get 60. I get
We've been pounding Tier 2
37.
on this the last couple episodes.
I've
It's
watched.
garbage.
It's
It's
garbage.
garbage. Dan Lillingquist holds that as a trophy, like he saved the Utah retirement. Don't drink his Kool-Aid, people. It's all garbage.
It was solvent. We
It's
didn't have
garbage.
to do anything.
It was solvent. And he's just trying to take this trophy that was never, there shouldn't be a trophy. It's like, hey, look, we already had this. All you've done is destroyed recruitment and attrition. So they are fixing it.
Honest, they are.
Well, they've gone to 25 years, 50% from that 37.5%. So now they just need to get it back down to a normal 20-year career. So that way they only have to work the same hours as everybody else in the state and not 30% more than everybody else in the state. So,
Well, I can tell you this. If I would have got Tier 1, I would still be a firefighter.
Sure. It would have been a lot easier to stay.
It would have been a lot easier.
Easier to stay.
And then I didn't even get the medical because tier 2 you don't get medical.
Right.
I found that out. I'm like,
isn't that nice?
I've had
Good.
4 heart surgeries. The doctors are telling me I need to quit. I don't
you can't
qualify.
get a medical retirement.
Oh yeah, you don't qualify because no one qualifies. You don't have
tier
medical.
2.
I'm like,
Yeah.
I would have
hence
picked
the
a
Evan deal.
different retirement. I would have picked all comp rather than benefit.
Right.
Because I chose the pension, planning on 25 years, rather than I could have just got that extra 11, 12%, whatever into my retirement.
Right. But
Didn't
Thanks,
know that
Dan.
though. Thanks, bud.
yeah,
You
right.
know?
And I think people don't understand it. We harp about it. They don't get it. It's confusing to them.
It just sounds like numbers. Like,
It
I don't
just
even have a
sounds like
retirement.
numbers.
That's great.
Yeah,
I'm like,
you're gonna
yeah, but
retire
you're
in
not doing
20 years.
CPR on a baby at 2 a.m. And I'm not saying one's better than the other. But what I'm saying is when your pay is low, you
have to have a goal.
You have to have a goal, and you have to have a retirement. And the medical, I always felt like, well, if something goes bad with my heart, at least I can medically retire. So when that was taken away too, I'm like, I felt
This
like,
is all stupid.
Are you kidding me?
Well, in the 20 years, people think, it should be a 30-year retirement. Well, 20 years is simply because they're working 240
yeah, you're
hours a
working
month.
56 hours a week, not 40.
Yeah, right. It's just different. It's the same 30%. You're still putting the same hours into the bucket.
Yeah.
It's just a lot faster.
Yep.
So don't think that we're just looking to be out of the game 10 years earlier. We're still putting the exact same amount of hours in.
That's exactly right.
That's all. So
And more usually. So I was working the 2 part-time jobs.
just so we can make average pay, we have to work more.
Exactly. And then I got hired at Ogden full-time for $36,000 a year, I think is what my
Divided by 2960.
Yeah. Not a lot.
So $11.
$11 an hour. So then I had 3 fire jobs, still doing real estate.
South
still
Ogden,
flipping
Roy,
houses, South
Ogden.
Ogden, Roy, Ogden. And then I got picked up at Northview too. And at the time, I knew that working at Ogden would give me the best experience. I'd get the most, calls, fires, everything. It would be great. And Roy was busy too.
Yeah.
So I was running a lot of fires. I was getting a lot of experience working that kind of hours with 4 jobs, right?
Sure.
But real estate
But then
was-
your wife's disappearing.
Yeah, my
and
wife's
your life's
like-
disappearing.
I'll never forget. I worked 9 days straight, which to you is nothing but
No,
nine
it's a lot.
days at a fire station.
Yeah, you're crazy.
Like I
at
haven't
that
seen
stage.
my wife in 9 days, and I just remember just ready to lose my mind. Like that's not good for patient care. That's not good for anything. But I was just a workaholic. I knew
And you were
if I
trying to
worked
pay
harder,
bills.
and I was trying to pay bills, and I wasn't as successful as I am today. Yeah, I had flipped houses, but I was digging my way out of the hole.
Right.
The hole I had built.
Did you go into a second bankruptcy or
No, never
just
did.
The first one?
Nope,
Okay.
just never did. But I remember after fire, us moving and maybe worth nothing, just nothing. And I remember thinking, I'm like,
Where did that go?
yeah, where did everything go? And now I'm just in this trading hours for dollars
But
thing.
in hindsight, do you even care about it?
No.
Nothing.
No.
Right? Like, I don't mind if I'm in a car again or if everybody's like, hey, you don't have anything.
Yeah,
I don't
that's
even
fine.
care.
Yeah, that's
Like,
fine.
whatever. It would make no difference
I'll wear
to me.
if we do this podcast 10 years from now, I'll have the same pants. Like
So-
I don't give a crap.
I have the same
You know what I mean?
thing. My son, he has a shirt the other day. Have you seen it? It says mullet time?
That's awesome. Did you
And
have
I
the Pit
had it in
Vipers
high
too?
school. But I bought that shirt when I was sporting a mullet before I started over at the South Davis. You had to cut your hair, right?
Yeah.
So it had to be collar length.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, so I had that mullet time shirt
Yeah.
in high school, and my son's wearing it to work. Here we are,
fantastic.
30 years later. So that tells you how I'd never throw clothes away.
Yeah.
Because I don't care.
It's a good T-shirt. I'm not throwing
It's a
shirt
good
away.
T-shirt.
Yeah. Right?
So you decided, like myself, I kind of had a target when I was
Mm-hmm.
going to leave Roy. And Jason Polson, we talked about this. He kind of set up what was my universe. And I had a rule, like as soon as we hit $5 million in revenue, then I'm going to be leaving because I can't afford really to be here
Yeah.
anymore. It was actually every time I'd go to work, I'd see a dip in revenue.
Yeah.
So then you had to kind
That's
of
what
decide.
happened to me. So fast forward, Ogden was kicking my butt. And I told my wife, I'm 5 years. I'm leaving in the fire service in 5 years because of this retirement. I think it'll kill me. My health issues. Almost died. I didn't even tell you that story, but when I was under heart surgery, they thought I had a heart attack. When they brought me back up, my heart wasn't functioning because there was too much swelling around my aorta because they replaced my aorta twice. This is the second time. And when I tested for Unified, I knew I had one of my valves not working, but I was so desperate to get the job that I just tested anyways. And I even told them beforehand, I said, I have a heart issue. And they said, well, if you pass and if you get the job, you just have to pass that physical. We can actually let you get surgery and then you can go into another recruit academy because I tested pretty high. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, well, I don't want to give this up. I want to give this to somebody else because I'm not capable of doing it. And they said, it's you or nobody. Like, we're not going to give that spot to somebody else, so you might as well come test. So I took a day off of work, drove down there, tested, and in the middle of it, my second leaflet blew out. So I had a 70% aortic insufficiency. And as I was pulling the hose, everything just started going crazy. And those tests aren't that hard, I don't think.
No.
And I'm going up the stairs at the very end. All I have to do is make it 6 flights of stairs and pull up the rope.
Hose up there.
Yeah, and I'm done. And I lost my vision. And I fell down the stairs. I just fell down. And people are like, what is this freaking weirdo doing, you know? And they pick me up, and I'm out of it, and someone checks my pulse, and it was like 200.
Right.
And they freak out. They call an ambulance. They're back there. The chiefs come running out. They think I'm dying right on the, because when they take my stuff off to do a 12 lead, I see my multiple scars.
Yeah.
So I don't want to go to the hospital. And they're like, we're taking you to the hospital 1039 right now. Go. And I'm like, no, you're not. Just give me a second. They're like, you're an SVT. We're going to have to cardio over it. I'm like, no, give me a minute. Just give me a minute. Let my heart rate come down. I shouldn't have tested today. I know I need heart surgery. I have my cell phone number for my cardiologist, you know, my heart surgeon. I'm like, just give me a minute. So I start throwing lingo at him. I'm like, I know I have a right bundle branch blockage. I know that. And he's like, oh, so the medic, he's like, oh, yeah, it's true. He does. And I'm like, I'm going to be fine, guys. I've dealt with this my whole life. Just let me go. I'll go get surgery and we'll call it. I'm not going to work here. You know, it is what it is. I'm really embarrassed. I just kept apologizing to him. So they make me stay there for like 30 minutes. Everything kind of chills out. They walk me to my car and they're like, oh. Everyone's panicked. Everyone just wants me to go to the hospital. The chiefs are like, we'll pay for it. We're not going to charge you. Just go. Just not the hospital stay, but the ambulance. Like, no, we're good. So I get in that car and I'm driving home. And I get on the freeway and I'm driving and I call Eddie Graham, tell him the story. He's like, oh my gosh, you got to be freaking kidding me. And I'm like, I'm going to have to take a little time off. He's my favorite. I called the cardiologist before Eddie and he said, Tuesday, you're having surgery Tuesday. You're on bed rest, go home. If that other leaflet goes out, you're done. Because I had too much calcium on there. So I'm driving, and about 35 minutes into the drive, I realize I'm going to St. George. I am driving the wrong direction. You know what I mean? So because I'm just out of it. I'm not feeling good. So I get off the freeway, come back, I head back. And Eddie, I'm like, I don't have enough time. I have like 1 month off, so we're going to have to figure something out. He's like, let me handle that. In one day, I had 3.5, 4 months of trades. Bam. Wow. That's what the Brotherhood does. I had chiefs,
which is hard
captains,
to leave, right?
Engineers working trades for me on the ambulance, on Ogden Ambulance 6, Ogden Ambulance 4.
Wow.
How great is that? I mean, talk about a brotherhood.
Right.
Incredible. So anyways, I have surgery, and they said he was sicker than he let on. Because when they did the surgery, they brought me back. My heart wouldn't work. So they had to go back under. They did an emergency bypass. They cut like a 12-inch incision here, and they did a bypass around my aorta. They bring me back, still not working right. So they decide we're going to go back under, take back and on and off the heart-lung machine. They did a 9-inch incision over here, double bypass, because they thought we think he had a heart attack. So my wife recorded the conversation, because, by the way, she's there by herself. Because it's like my third rodeo, who cares, whatever. Right. She's pregnant, she's there, waiting. Well, this 4-hour surgery turns into a 9.5, 10-hour surgery. I've lost 50% of my blood. They're worried about me not making it. The second time he comes out, he's saying things aren't looking good. She calls her brother, starts freaking out. Her brother leaves without even just gets up and walks out of work. It's just like, I'm going to go be with my sister. Leaves, calls the mom. They kind of rally. They come up there. And she's just a mess. And when they come out, they recorded the doctor. And he's like, well, this is our final attempt. She's like, what do you mean final attempt? This is our final attempt. Here's what we're going to do, because he's lost enough blood that he's not going to survive surgery if this doesn't work. And gives her like the whole rundown. And she starts crying. My mother-in-law goes, I'm sorry, she's pregnant. And the doctor just goes,
oh, crap.
You know what I mean? He just put his head down. He's just like, and I've talked to some other nurses and doctors that were there that day, and they're like, oh my gosh, we got this young kid, 20-something, no, I was 30, 34, something like that. I was, a young kid. No, I was 31. That's what it was. I was 31. Dying on the operating table.
Pregnant wife.
Firefighter. The story is great, right? I'm going to be the doctor that kills this guy, yeah. So they bring in all the doctors, they figure out and he comes up with something, and anyways, they put me back on the machine and I survive. Obviously, I'm here, right? Mm-hmm. So I'm used to surgeries. I wake up, and it's the same day, and they have you stand up after heart surgery, like immediately. They extubate you spend a little time, and then you have to stand up because that gets your body going. And I remember laying there thinking, what are they talking about? He almost died, and blood levels, and they're not talking about me, right? And then my brother's talking. And I remember he's kind of loud and he's talking, and it was exhausting to listen to someone talk. I was so tired that thinking wore me out.
It was making you tired.
It was making me exhausted. I remember thinking, just be quiet. Just be quiet. And my wife's rubbed my hand. Like, I'm going to take a little nap. So I wake up, go to sleep, wake up 5 minutes later. Now my brother's not talking. Okay. And I'm like, I'm going to try and tell my wife I'm awake. I'm going to try and move my finger. I'm going to try and blink. I can't do all this stuff. Finally, I move my finger. She freaks out. Oh, he's waking up. That was 3 days later.
Oh, really?
I was out for 3 days after, well, they're trying, and I wake up and I've just got stuff sticking out of my neck. They're pumping all this stuff, trying just everything they can to keep me alive. And I was exhausted for 5 days. I mean, so exhausted. If you sat up, I had to take a nap for like 4 hours. Just so tired. At one point, I gave up, which is embarrassing to admit. But I was so exhausted, and my heart went into a flutter, and it stayed in flutter for hours, and I was just nauseous, and my heart it was just terrible. I was, hot, cold, and my doctor comes in and he goes, well, we've tried medication. We might have to cardiovert you. Otherwise, we have to put you under again. I'm like, just let me die.
I'm done with this game.
I'm done. And my wife's like, what? And I'm like, I'm sorry. I'm dead. If I go on, I'm doing everything I can just to be alive right now. If you put me under again, I'm done. So if we're going to do that, just let me be alive till I die.
And now your wife's mad.
Yeah. Oh, and then she's like, a lot. Thanks a lot. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
right.
do you not care about us? I'm pregnant, So anyways, I get better. I finally go to a normal room. I spend 9 or 10 days in there. And then I remember saying a prayer. I don't know if you want me to talk about this stuff.
Oh, yeah,
but
sure.
I just said, I'm at my limit, and sorry.
No, do it. We like this part.
I've done everything I can. I'm at my limit. I need your help.
And
that's when I realized money and being impressive, none of that matters. Memories.
Yeah.
That's what kept coming to my mind. Every vacation I'd been on, time I spent with my family. That's what's important. Family's important, Anyways, I wake up the next day. I felt great. I feel amazing. I get up and I'm just going to say it. I took a holy shit. I was in the shower.
What happened?
No, I shit.
Oh, yeah,
I got in the shower and I'm like, hot shower on me, which if you haven't had a shower in a week and a half, a hot shower is just like, and all of a sudden I'm like, the coffee feeling? Like, I got to go. I got to go
so
right now.
all those pain meds were
all
broken.
those pain meds for like 9 days. Yeah. Everything I had, this is the first bowel movement I had since heart surgery, and I call it the holy shit, because after that, it was like, I'm ready to go do push-ups and run a marathon. I feel incredible. Yeah. So I feel amazing, and the day before, I couldn't walk down to the corner of the hallway without sitting down doing the rehab. Then they released me that day.
Wow.
Like the next day, all my levels changed. I was great. I'm walking around. I'm like, I feel good.
From prayer to out the next day.
Yeah, well, I lied. I think it was 2 days because they said my numbers were still off and it was the next day. But I told my wife I'm leaving today and she came to get me and then they had to wait and I was kind of frustrated for the next day. But I'm alive. I'm doing awesome. This is fantastic. So they told me you have permanent heart damage. You're going to have to quit fire. And that crushed me. I'm like, permanent heart damage. And this was a PA. This wasn't my cardiologist. And now I'm like, I don't have insurance. How am I going to take care of my family? What am I going to do?
Huge medical bills.
Huge medical bills. All this stuff going on. And I'm like, and now, because he goes, well, let's get you in the cardiac rehab. You're going to get in a lot better shape. And I said, well, I got to get back in shape because I got to go back to the fire. He's like, you're a firefighter? This is the PA. I'm like, yeah. He's like, you are not going to be a firefighter. You have permanent heart damage. I'm like, what are you talking about? So then I had this holy shit experience, and guess what? Right. I didn't have. My cardiologist comes in 2 days later, and he goes, no, I disagree with that. Your white blood cell count was way up because you're fighting this off and you're young and blah, blah, blah. He's like, I don't think you have permanent heart damage. I think you had so much swelling around your aorta that blocked the flow. Mm-hmm. Now that's going to go down, I bet you were going to see improvement and all this stuff, and that's what happened. I went back to the fire world, and that was when I was at Ogden, and I decided even though now I owed 17 trades, 20 trades, something like that, people wouldn't let me pay them back. They're like, oh, I don't know who did those trades. We never kept track. We don't know. I'm like, Bullshit.
Dirt bags.
I'm paying everybody back. They wouldn't let me. So from there on out, if anyone asked me for a trade, it was a done deal. It was a done deal.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to be paid back. But then I feel bad. Now I've got to leave the brotherhood that just saved me.
Because you're going to a different.
Because I got to go to a place that's slower, right? So I get on with South Jordan. They treat me amazing. Because I came in with a new guy attitude, didn't care that I was a lateral. I end up promoting to engineer really fast. I meet Alec. They want me to promote as captain. They just really start pushing me down that road really, really fast. And just amazing. And then 2017, I was in the best shape of my life, loving my job. It's fantastic. It's amazing. I'm promoted engineer. I didn't really want to move up from engineer. I was powerlifting at the time, which, by the way, you're not supposed to do when you have heart problems.
Son of a
I found that out, and that led to my ejection fraction going a little lower on one of my checkups. And they said, you're pretty built. You're pretty strong looking. Do you lift heavy? I'm like, well, what's heavy? And they're like, well, what do you, I'm like, nothing, not compared to TJ Mosier or Taylor, none of those guys. I'm deadlifting like 470 pounds and benching like 3 something. They're like, yeah, you can't do that. Your systolic blood pressure goes up to like 300. When you do that, you're going to cause problems in your heart. I'm like, oh, okay. We probably should have known that, but whatever. I'm just used to saying, no, I'm just going to do whatever I want anyways. So I stopped powerlifting, which sucked. I hate that. But they're like, let's fix your mitral valve. I'm like, man, another heart surgery. And they're like, well, we're just going to go up your leg and we're going to put these 2 clips in. It's kind of a new thing. And so I was a little bit nervous when I went under for the 4th time. I'm like, my wife was nervous. She was crying. I'm like, it's just a little, it's not a big deal. But with the trauma you've had, it's a little bit scary. Well, so I wake up and I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't feel my heart.
Anything.
And they're like, what do you mean? I'm like, it's like that hum you hear your whole life, and then when it goes away, you're like, what the hell? That's what it was. I could always feel my heartbeat. And that was gone. I'm like, it's freaking cool, man. This is awesome. So that's positive, right? I'm moving forward. I've fixed everything in my heart. I don't have a problem. I'm on no medication.
Wow.
I'm
Still
done.
right now?
No, not yet. It gets worse.
Okay.
It gets worse. Remember I talked to God again?
Right, okay.
So I am an engineer at 62 in South Jordan. We go to this old folks home that we go on quite a bit, Sagewood. And there's an older gentleman who's a little heavy set, who's really sick, and he needs to move from the gurney, for his wheelchair to the gurney. Well, we're a 4-handed engine. I probably don't need to move him. I'm the engineer. I can just stand there with my gloves, right?
Right.
Engineer joke, right?
Yeah, I can stand here with my gloves in my
I can
pocket.
just stand here and like, you do that. But I'm feeling bad for this guy. They're trying to pick him up, and it's kind of hurting his shoulders and this and that. So I go over there, and I kind of bear hug him and stand him up, and he coughs in my face. And set him down, take him to the hospital. Well, he dies at the hospital. He had, I think it's Haemophilus influenza. So a few days in my days off, I get pretty sick. And I go into the doctor after like a week. So I'm like, I take the next 2 days off, and I'm getting sicker. I better go get checked out. And they're like, yeah, you got something. We'll do some tests, but let's give you some amoxicillin. So they do that. 3 days later, my doctor calls. He's like, are you better? I'm like, no, way worse. He's like, yeah, you come right back in. You have H flu. This Haemophilus influenza. I'm like, I have the flu? I go in, and I felt really winded. I was really tired. I felt like I had pneumonia, crackles in my lungs and everything. Go back in there, and they're like, yeah, this is the leading cause of like tuberculosis, meningitis, pleurisy of your heart. I'm like,
wow.
Yeah. So I got nailed with the virus. I'm like, guess what that did? That damaged my left ventricle.
Oh, goody.
So my ejection fraction, for people who don't know, your left ventricle pumps blood, and it should pump out 50 to 70% of the blood every time, was pumping like 30. So my ejection fraction went to 30. I had pneumonia and heart failure. Again, after my heart is fixed, at the best shape of my life, I'm in the happiest I've ever been.
And then here we goes.
Here we go. Like, you got to be kidding me. So I went the other route. I got angry. I was pissed. All these blessings I've had in my life, I was kind of bitter. Why would God do this to me? Why now? I've got these little boys. What the hell? Which, that's a very selfish thing to say, because people go through much worse than I've ever gone through. So please give me a little, I'm not trying to.
No, but we get into our own world just like everything else. I don't dare. It's not me. You're lucky. I'm not.
Yeah,
But
exactly. I got in my own world.
You were in that world.
I was pissed off. I felt like I had earned the spot to be healthy, and it was gone, So for months, I lied to the fire department. I didn't tell them what was going on. I took days off. I worked with an amazing fire captain who I told him what was going on, and he made sure I did nothing on any calls other than drive us there. Mm-hmm. That makes sense, you know? And it wasn't very safe to have me on, but he let me sleep through calls at night, let somebody else drive. Like, he really covered me. He really protected me. And as things moved on, I got a little bit better. We went in, did an ejection fraction test, did an echocardiogram, and they said 37%, but that's as good as it's going to get, you know?
So still?
No.
Okay.
So they put me on medicines, all that. After months of medicines, they tried to remodel my heart. That's what I got, 237. And I said, so how do we fix it? And my doctor's like, well, it's degenerative, and we just have to manage your heart failure. I'm like, manage
heart failure.
Manage heart failure. Like, die. Like, he goes, well, we can look at, when it gets to a certain level, do an LVAD, left ventricular assist device.
Yeah, you get to carry a purse.
Yeah, I get to carry a purse, keep me alive, and then then we'll have a heart replacement, you know? And I'm just like, you got to be kidding me. So then every day, I'm like, you know what, I can work out. I'll just work out hard enough that my heart will get better. So every day I'd try and run on the treadmill, but I could only go like 4.5 miles an hour, and my heart rate would go up to like 180. So I lay down. I try that day. I go to sleep. That was my last day on days off. I'm going back to work. And at 2 a.m, I'll never forget, is when I woke up. I have a dream where a godlike person talks to me. And I don't know if this is a dream or what.
Right.
But it said, why have you lost faith in me? And that hit me hard. And I said, well, I'm not Mormon anymore. I'm not religious anymore. I don't care. You think I need religion to know who you are? I said, okay, well, why do kids get cancer? Why do people get molested? Why does all the bad happen in the world? And I got an answer that was interesting. You'll never understand. Your human brain can't understand that concept until you're on this side. You'll never be able to understand that. That's it. I kind of expected something different, but I'm like not going to argue at the same time. You know, I'm kind of like, oh, okay. And he says, I've healed you before. I can heal you again if you have faith in me. And I'm really hesitant to tell this story because there's people out there right now with cancer. There's people who are passing away.
Sure.
And this leads to survival guilt. You know what I mean? Like, why am I worthy? Mm-hmm. I don't understand that. And I guess I never will, or until I get there, because there's people a lot better than me that deserve it a lot more that it didn't happen to. And I'm sorry for that, you know?
Yeah, you shouldn't be.
But it is what it is, right?
Right.
I woke up just in tears, losing my mind, waking my wife up. So tell her what happened. She starts crying. She says, today was the first day I had a feeling that you'd get better, and I didn't know what to think of it because the doctor just told us, no.
That you're not.
Yeah. So I'm like, all right, I've got like 4 hours sleep now. I can't go back to sleep. So I just stay up, have some coffee, go in early to the fire station, and we go get breakfast and all that. And we come back. I'm like, I'm going to work out. We're going to see how this goes. Was that a dream? What was this? So I go into the station 63 and I get on the treadmill and I start walking, start jogging, start running. I run 3 miles at 6 miles an hour. My heart rate's like 130. And I just start crying because that's what I do. I just start crying. And they decide, oh, Lewis is going to work out. I was trying to work out when no one else was working
with
out.
The heart monitor.
Yeah, we better go in there. They come in and I'm just crying. So you know what I say? Man, cardio's a bitch. And, you know,
it makes me cry every time.
Gosh, I hate running. You know, that I blamed it on allergies instead of just being authentic and being like, "Holy crap!"
Right, I had this experience.
But I haven't even told him what was going on with me. I'm just holding a lot in, trying to keep everything together because I don't want to lose those benefits, man. I don't want to lose that fire job. I love it. So I go up, tell my wife, I'm all emotional, crying, and I call the doctor and said, I want to do another echo, and they said, you just had one. We can't. You're going to have to pay for it. And I said, I don't care. Let's do it. So my ejection fraction was 60. It's perfect. Exactly what it needs to be. And my doctor calls me an anomaly. He doesn't even know what to think. I'm a friggin' anomaly. And it's been the same like that for years now. So I don't know what purpose I have. But.
So why'd you decide to leave?
So why I left was I was getting too busy with real estate. And I think I closed 44 deals. Which, to put that in context, a lot of agents do like 10, a deal a month or something like that, 10 deals. But if you're closing almost one a week, you know, and the average commission 6 to 10 grand, you know, you're making pretty good money. And everyone always teased me like, why on earth are you here? What are you doing?
It goes on forever, huh?
And I think if I'd have stayed on the 4896, I would have stayed, but I started lifting again and I tore my left pec and it completely came off the bone. And I had to spend a year on days. And that's where me and Alex started working together. And when I was on days, now I was driving, getting up really early, like 4 a.m, driving to South Jordan, trying to get all my work done before anyone came into work. So there's a lot of chatting and talking and whatever else. And then I would try and get home at an early enough hour that I could do real estate all night. And then in the evenings, in the weekends, I mean. So trying to do all the real estate I can, I was just overwhelmed. It was getting to a point where like I started to not be good at real estate and not be good at my job. Pulled from every direction. You can only wear so many hats, you know? And I finally just decided, what am I doing? 37%, I've got like 17 more years of this for 37%. I mean, I could maybe do 10 or 12 more years for 50%. But what's best for my family? And then I found out I could get health insurance for about $1,000 a month. And I'm like, so what's that costing me?
Matter.
And the day I decided to quit was the day I came in. I asked for the day off, and my battalion chief said I couldn't have it off. And I was pretty pissed off because I needed that day off for real estate stuff, which sounds rude, but I'm just trying to do all this stuff, you know, and hey, I've earned time. I can take that day off. But they took that as like, man, Lewis is a little burned out, you know? So they're like, he goes, hey, I'm gonna send you home today. Not like on leave, but you're dealing with some stuff. We should just have you go. And then it was that day I just realized, like,
I'm out.
I can't do both. So I talked with my wife and just decided I'd draft up the letter and I was going. And then for the first 6 months, and my chief at the time, Dawson, told me, your first 6 months will be rough. You've done this for a long time. So I said, well, okay. And for the first couple months, I left September 25th, 2019. And it goes into winter, and winter's always a little slower for me. I'm a sphere of influence guy. I get a lot of deals, almost all my deals from just sphere of influence and people bringing me business. And for some reason, those months are a little slower, which I'm fine with, man. I want to go on vacation. I want to relax a little bit. I work 100 hours a week. I'd rather have a little time off anyways. But not having the fire job there messed with me bad. And I would have came back multiple times if they asked. Multiple times. Because you go through some trauma in life, right? And until you learn how to deal with trauma, all of it was coming up. And I understand why people have PTSD and they kill themselves and everything else once they leave the fire service, because you numb it out when you go to the fire station and have coffee and BS with each other and laugh about the next call you go on, right? When you have just your thoughts to deal with and you've been so busy for the last 15 years, you can't punt it down the road. Yeah. You have to cope with that. You have to start thinking about it. It's way hard.
Yeah. It's crazy. When I left, I tell Britt, I guess last year, maybe it's been 2 years, he's like, hey, we got a full-time position available. You can take it. And I put in. I'm like, you know what? I think I might. I think I'm in a position I can take this full-time job again.
Yeah.
Right? Go back to full-time. I'm like, I would love it. But it's like, at the same time, you know what? The only thing that keeps me from doing it is I'd like to just decide, like, tomorrow, I'm like, yeah, I'm going to take the kids to wherever, right? Yeah. We're going to go on vacation. We're going to go to the lake.
Freedom, yeah.
To not be able to, not have to plan when your days are that are gone. And I don't take many days, but I want to be able to take my family. I was looking, my wife was sending me a bunch of Snapchat memories, like 5 years, 4 years, 3 years, 2 years. And there was like France and Kentucky and Nashville and just a bunch of different things that we've done in the same month. I'm like, why am I doing what I'm doing? Like, now I'm in a position where we can afford to go to Disneyland at least a year, or you know, whatever. I can do it now. Let's just do it. Like, why is it that you're working?
Yeah.
It's for memories. Like you said, when you laid down in your bed, it was memories that you're doing. And I think that we get so caught up into the dollars, and really at the end of the day, it has nothing to do with it. And I don't think either one of us would care. And I get it that people want to strive for that because you want that ability to have the freedom. And I say do it because it is a freedom. But at the same time, when it's pretty empty.
Yeah, everyone thinks once you're rich, you're happy.
Yeah, no, it's a different spot.
Totally different. You just have different
It's the memory.
problems.
You need to make sure that you have the memories there, right? So for me, I want my kids to be able to, I want to take my kids, I want to look through my phone and see all these pictures and these laughs and these memories. And like those memories and like Mammoth Caves and everything else, I'm like, okay, I got to go expose my kids to this all day.
Yep.
Who cares if all I have is enough to afford that, if I can pay my house payment and I can do that. That is what I'm willing to do.
Well, can I give some advice to people watching right now?
Yeah, that's what they're here for.
They might say, well, Jeremy, you're multi-millionaire. You can go do that. Lewis, you do a ton of real estate. You're a millionaire. You can go do that. But guess what? I traveled more when I was broke.
As a firefighter. Me too.
As a firefighter.
Hands down.
And here's how you do it. It's simple. Here's how you do it. You make a decision.
And you do it.
And you do it. Because when I get paid, I put my money in 7 different accounts, right?
Every check?
Yeah, every check. So if I get operations, I have to have operations covering my expenses, my assistants, all that, right? You have operations, you have taxes. Sure. I have a give account. To me, that's the most important, the give one.
Absolutely. You don't get if you don't give.
Yeah.
Period.
So I give away, and I have to deplete that every month. So whatever I have in there, if there's $2,000, $5,000, $500, whatever, I bless people's lives and no obligation. I don't want the money back.
Well, let's be honest. You bless your life.
I bless my life.
That's better.
That's better. I like
it's
that.
a selfish gift.
It's a selfish thing.
It is.
You're
it's
right.
100%.
To give a waitress a $500 tip and see them break down crying and chase you to the parking
It's
lot
for
and
you.
give you a hug. It's for me. Yeah,
Yeah,
sure.
it's for you.
But we've been able to still do it. It's good. Put good in the world and don't ever do obligation. Don't ever say, here's $1,000. You're going to remember me when you sell your house, right? Don't do that stuff. Do not do it.
Oh, you feel dirty.
Yeah, it's wrong. It's wrong. Don't do that. And then you got to have, there's other accounts, but the big one for me is vacation account. And it's funny you're talking about this because last night I just doubled our vacation account because I said, I'm making more money than I've ever made. I'm working more than I've ever worked.
And I'm vacationing less than
I'm vacationing less. And that is wrong.
Yep.
I'm going to go on vacations every 3 months. That's what I told my wife. I go, as soon as we plan one and we get done, start planning the other.
Yep.
Let's start planning the other. And I don't care what it costs me. I don't care how much I lose. But as you can do this as a firefighter, okay, maybe your vacation isn't going all inclusive for $10,000. Maybe it's going camping.
Well, that's it. Like, you know how many
Maybe
times
you're
I used
going
my camper
fishing.
this year?
Oh my gosh.
I didn't use my camper this
Yeah.
year. Not one time. Guess how many times I used the boat? One time. 1 week this year. So I'm like, why am I doing what I'm doing? It makes no sense to me because my favorite memories, I'm looking through my phone and what the pictures I do have are those.
Yeah.
It's either that
It's
or
not-
like a
it's
new
probably
door
not your
or
bank
whatever.
account,
Yeah,
right?
never.
You're never like, oh my gosh, look at that.
You know what? I have one picture of a bank. It was the first time I got $1 million deposit. Right?
That's cool.
Then
Yeah.
that was the like I have that picture.
Sure.
I'm like, okay, cool. I got $1 million deposit. But that's the only one, and that's just because that was like a check mark. When's that going to happen?
Yeah.
Right. So at the same time, nothing else is. But I'm looking at how far apart now that those vacation pictures are, and I feel bad that I've taken advantage or lost the last few years with the kids taking these great vacations. And when I say great vacations, I mean a 20-mile ride in my pickup with my 2006 camper. I still have the same one I've had since.
Yeah, mine's an 07.
Yeah, it's great.
People are like, why don't you get a big
Because
car?
I want them
give
to
a
run in
shit,
the
man.
house with their muddy feet, and I want them to. I don't care.
I want to have
this
fun.
is camping.
If we have a dog with us,
let it go in there. Fine.
Yeah, who cares?
So, but it's sad that we've just kind of let that all go, and then you wonder, what do we do it for? So, I think when you're growing on your journey and you decide, hey, I want to go on my own business and I want to do this, don't forget why you're doing it. Is it because the money's empty? And then is it because you want time? Then just like you say with your 7 bank accounts, I think there should be time allocations in those accounts.
I agree.
Like I'm going to give work this time, I'm going to give family this time. And I'm terrible at it. I'm saying this like
Yeah, I mean, you
super
both.
hypocritical.
Ask Alec.
We're
terrible at it.
Fake. And I
Yeah.
think, Ken, we've gone through, you've had those same kind of struggles at home. Anybody that's tried their own thing has gone through this, but I think ultimately it's mentally draining. It makes us feel unsuccessful, even though you are perceived as successful. But we look at it as like, well, yeah, checking account says successful, assets, net worth, whatever.
Yeah.
But when it comes down to your kids and it comes down to your wife and it comes down to how you feel, and I'm guilty. Like, I love my wife with everything, and what she's had to deal with has been more than she probably should have to deal with. And me too, sometimes when she gives me a headache. Just saying. Anyway, but at the same time, it's all brought on by myself, and you know, when we don't give them the time that they need, and so we get home, and I sit in the truck, I'm like, gosh, what am I going to do when I get home? I've got this that I haven't addressed. I have this that I haven't addressed. And then everybody's going to want my time, my wife, my kids. My dog doesn't like me right now because I'm, whatever.
Lewis has been bugging me. What am I gonna do?
It's just like I feel like I get exhausted. I'm like, I'll just stay at work. But at the end of the day, when I look at my phone, just like you said, it's those memories we don't play with. So when we go through this journey of deciding what our goal is, whether it be in business or success or whatever your marquees are, find out the reason why, and then make sure that those reasons whys are still first.
Yep.
And I think ultimately this journey of whatever it is that you guys are striving for, whether it be having your own business, and it may not be the money, it's just because you want the freedom or the ability, the obligation, or the significance of how it makes
Feels
you feel.
good.
Right.
It
And
feels
may.
good. A lot of people do it for that. They get impressed with themselves.
Right.
And when I see a leader get to the point where they're not impressed with themselves anymore, they're really getting somewhere. When you quit doing it for the significance and me and how important I am, and start acting from a position of what am I going for, and how am I going to get there? Like me, I want more vacation. You want more vacation. I want more time with my family. Then why is making more money and taking time from my family what I'm doing? Right. Okay, hold on. There's an imbalance here. What am I actually trying to do? So why am I trying to work so hard? Why am I trying to? Oh, maybe it's because it makes me feel good. Maybe it's because I grew up poor. I've always been told I can't, other than for my family. But I've been told in life I can't. So to say that I can and to achieve feels good, builds my ego. And egos aren't good, but okay, I'm going to push that aside, and I'm really going to do what's important. I'm going to spend time with my family. Right. And if that means you made less this year, who cares? Who freaking cares?
Isn't none of it. But it's hard when you don't have it. Like,
it's hard when you don't have it.
When you're looking at these people, and I've been that guy. Like, well, that's easy for him to say. He doesn't know
me too.
Right.
Like, it'd be real nice to go on a vacation. Great.
Right. Look at you talk.
80 grand behind. What
fair.
am I going to do?
It's totally fair to feel that way.
It's fair.
But at the same time, it's like, look, I just didn't realize the other side, what it feels like. It's like, okay, yeah, I'm missing out on everything else that really was the greatest part of my life. Fire department, vacation, all these things, and this other stuff really is inconsequential. So now we have to say, hey, we can have both, and we can be successful at both.
Yeah.
But they need the same kind of attention, which is super hard. Easier said than done. I'm sitting here going, hey, what's what I'm going to do? And I'm looking at the rest of my night after this podcast.
Right.
And I'm going to not be home till like 10:30.
Yeah.
Right. And so what is it really? What is it that I really want? And then what is it that I'm really going to make happen? So I challenge all of you guys to not let hurdles get in your way. That if you're wanting a goal of being successful or having a business, then I would say go for it. Yeah. And don't hold. You are your biggest holdback. You're your biggest break. And everybody else around you, including myself, regardless, if you were to come up to me, a stranger in the airport, and ask me this, I would say you should go for it. And I may not know your story, and it doesn't matter what kind of holdbacks you may have, whether it be physical, financial, mental, or whatever, right? Look at Elon Musk, right? He's got his own, what did he have? Asperger's, right? So he's been able to accomplish all sorts of extraordinary things, and I don't want to be the quasi using Elon Musk all the time. All I'm saying is we can find any excuse not to try, but what we can't live with ourselves with is not trying.
Yep.
So just get over the hurdle and go try whatever it is. If it's a goal that you want to own a cookie store, or you want to sell stickers, or you want to sell houses, or you want to own the most real estate in the whole state, just do it. Just try. And it may seem like cliche, but there's people that believe in you. There's investors that are willing to take chances. Be more than fair to your people that are giving you the opportunity.
Yep.
Investors or otherwise, it will come back. Be ready to pay your dues. Don't forget why you're doing it. Put up a list like your 7 savings accounts. It should be 7 list of things that you want to do with the money, or if you are successful, and I don't want to use reference money, but I should say with what you're doing on your goal.
Yeah, whatever your goal is.
Whatever it is.
And don't be afraid of failure.
And fail. No, I'd say don't be afraid. I'd say I encourage it to fail as fast as you can, as much as you can, and celebrate failures. When you see someone else failing or hurting, celebrate it with them, help them find good points, because ultimately that's the only way we grow. And I want to just encourage people to do whatever it is. Absolutely. With the best attitude they possibly can, even on their worst day.
Yep.
It is hard. It does suck. You did have a bad night. And life is not all that. It's not all easy. It is wonderful, and I'm thankful for it every minute, even on my bad days, even on the days I'm laying on the garage floor wishing I didn't have to go do whatever it is that I'm doing. And I haven't done that for a lot of years, but if I had to do it tomorrow, I would be fine with it.
Yep.
Right? There was lessons that came out of those times that I could never ever learn another way.
100%.
You just can't see it then.
No.
You just can't. So recognize when your checks are bouncing or your credit cards are declined. There is other solutions. It's okay. It's okay. Don't be embarrassed. The guy next to you at the register doesn't give two shits either, because more than likely his credit card's not going to clear either.
Right.
So what other people think doesn't matter.
Nope.
Don't let that be your holdback in life. And Lewis, for you, you've gone through a bunch. You've had some crazy life turns. You've been ultra successful, and I love watching it.
Thank you.
Just to see it, and I think other firefighters, you've done it from nothing. You've been able to figure out ways to do it from nothing, and I think all people, if a firefighter can do it, they're not making much more than the In-N-Out burger guy.
Right.
So, in parallel, we're all close to the same, striving for the same thing: more freedom, a little bit more money to have a little bit more fun, and then some more family time.
Yep.
Just make it happen. Make the decision to do it. Ask advice. We're here. Make comments.
Sure.
Please tell us, and then call, and then ask your mentor. Ask somebody you look up to.
Absolutely.
They'll be willing to do it.
Yeah. Anybody who calls me about real estate, I help. Sure.
Yeah, and I think anybody should.
Or anything. It doesn't even, you don't have to call me about, you could say, how'd you get over that anxiety? How'd you get over, what about
Depression.
this?
How did you get over
I'm having
this?
heart issues. My kid has a heart problem. That's fine. Reach out.
Yep.
You know, it's amazing. Just power proximity, putting yourself around people who root for you to win is kind of my main thing now. I mean, besides spend time with your family, but if I'm going to choose to hang out with people, they're going to be people who we root for each other.
Right. Yep. Your support
I don't need a
team.
crab pulling me down.
You
Does that make
get those.
sense?
Yeah, you got to get rid of them.
You got to get rid of them. You got to have people around you who believe in you.
Yep. And we do. I mean, I think everybody does. And even when you're failing, and even if you've lost everything, and even if you're living in your car, and even if you're a panhandler, I promise you people believe in you. You know what you're not doing? You're not laying there not wanting to do anything every day forever. You haven't gone ahead and shot yourself or whatever. You haven't ended it on an unreasonable call. Like, we've been in those thoughts. I've been in those positions where I felt that. But at the same time, you guys just do. Just do. Recognize it's okay to lose. Recognize it's okay to hurt. Recognize it's okay. It does get better. The sun comes back out. I know all these dumb sayings.
But guess what? That's life.
You know what? Don Blom told me an ocean without waves is a pretty boring ocean. It's wonderful certain days that you can just sit back, calm waters, have a freaking margarita and an umbrella, and just float in a sailboat and not move an inch. That's a good day. But I can tell you, after a week of that, you will want to freaking jump in the lake. You're done.
It'll start stinking.
You need
It'll
the
get
waves.
stagnant. It'll have
you
problems.
You need
Oh,
the
yeah.
wind. You need the difficulties to get anywhere in a sailboat. And life is that. We need waves. We need wind. We need hurdles.
Yes.
We need hard times to get anywhere in life.
Yep.
Otherwise,
100%.
it's just this plain, flat, boring nothing that moves you nowhere.
100%.
So do it. Try hard. I mean, it doesn't matter where you come from or where you've been or what kind of medical issues or mental issues you have. Be the best you of whatever that is that you can be. Set your goals, set your reasons, and go for it. So I want to thank Lewis Weaver for coming here today, and everybody, Ken and Alec, thank you for joining us. And if you have any questions, let us know in comments. Please subscribe.
Yeah,
it's
please
90
subscribe.
Proof Wisdom podcast. Subscribe. You can see it on Spotify and Audible and pretty much everywhere you can get podcasts.
YouTube, everything.
Yeah, check out the videos on YouTube. But anyway, if you know somebody that wants to be on our podcast that has a great story to tell, we'd love to have you. Thanks again for listening, and everyone, please be safe. If you love us, let us know in our comments. If you hate us, we want to know that too. Have a great one, everybody. Thanks again for joining. Yep, see ya. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in to 90 Proof Wisdom Podcast. Hopefully there was a takeaway for you. If you like what we're doing or even our efforts, tell your friends about it. Let us know what we could do better. Again, thank you for listening to 90 Proof Wisdom Podcast. Don't forget to smash that subscribe button.